The place where I am, hardly any people have seen, even with one eye. I bet that many would like to get here and everyone would like to stay here. However, after spending more than 1,000 years here, you involuntarily begin to think about suicide. But I am God and, while I am in the pure world, this is not possible. At one time I gained unprecedented power, but here I no longer need it. Don't nag, you're just like a child. Kagaya brought me out of my sad thoughts. She learned to read minds, now you can't even imagine her naked, she immediately blushes. What can you do? It's boring. So call Shinigami and come to an agreement. I am the only one of the inhabitants who could call the supreme god a decrepit old man. Besides him, Alona and a couple more gods are considered supreme gods. I, Amaterasu, Susanoo, Tsukuyomi are one step lower. By the way, I reached such heights only because I absorbed Shinju, and did not seal it. The lower ones include Jashin, Izanagi and Izanami. Besides this, there are also those who claim to be the gods of this world. The so-called pseudo-gods. Their power is just a pittance compared to ours. We call the Otsutsuki clan such gods. This decrepit old man doesn't want to make contact. I threw my head back with a displeased look. Well, come with me, I'll make contact with you. My charming goddess ran her cold palm over my face and, winking playfully, walked smoothly to our mansion. She knows what's on my mind, she knows that I'll follow her. Yes, you can have sex even here. Maybe it's enough to protect him, he's already big. He can go for a walk. Well, I don't know, 2,000 years isn't that long. Naruto needs to learn to use his power wisely. If he were a lowly one, he'd let him go in peace, but this way. That's exactly why he has to go. The baby won't be able to learn to fly if you tie his wings. Okay, I think you're right. Let him have his fun. Tell him that if he calls me an old man again, I'll come for him personally and cremate him. Well. Kagaya came out of the shower. Her long blonde hair was piled on her head. I was still lying on the bed. How beautiful she was, both in bed and in a towel. However, after the wild sex, I felt something completely new. As if I had a key. This is it, Kagaya hugged me tenderly, I can feel it. Do you really think so? I said with disbelief in my voice. Go, I will miss you, these were the last words. I kissed Kagu goodbye and followed the invisible current that stubbornly called me. I found myself in a place unknown to me before. Soon I heard a voice. Old man. You're free, but be careful. Of course, I smiled and opened the portal window. Well, let's begin. I began to gradually open the portals one by one, choosing the most interesting option. So the pink world no. Akatsuki's victory is possible, but I don't want to. Wow, that's so much. An alternative reality is also no. My world, we'll beat up Obito and that's it, we can watch how the canon changes. I took a confident step into the portal. Meet the god of the middleweight division. The portal opened. I stepped out of it and looked around. Yes, in principle, this is exactly the place I wanted to go. Around me was a half-destroyed forest, which was not that far from Konohagakure no Sato. A squad of Konoha shinobi and Kyuubi were located in the clearing. Yeah, Minato hadn't shown up yet. Looks like I'll have to start without him. I ran towards the tailed beast. Its eyes were similar to the Uchihas. Speaking of which, the most touchy Uchiha of all was standing on Kurama. A moment later, I was next to him. Standing on Kyuubi's head, I slapped him on the shoulder. What? He screamed and stuck a kunai into me, but when he saw my eyes, he hurried to hide in the kamui. No way, he would have succeeded, but I was able to open a portal and get the mask wearer out of there. Where are you going? A blow to the solar plexus took away the boy's speech, and then I put the seal of enslavement on him. A second later, the fourth Hokage appeared. Too late, I had already finished everything. Hey, Hokage, hold the goat. Who are you? I think it's hard to describe Minato's surprise. You're going to fight some idiot who should be strong enough to subdue the strongest tailed beast, and then this. You go ahead, take this, miracle, to Ibiki, and I'll take care of the fox. And tell the third to take Kushina and the little one, and after that we'll talk, okay? The Hokage nodded and disappeared along with the mask maker. How trusting. Although, what else could he do? Putting my hands on Kurama's head, I sealed him inside myself. The entire unimaginably large carcass of the monster was sucked into me. After that, I descended into the subconscious. The fox lay chained to the floor. Pathetic mortal, let me go, and I will reward you with power, Kyuubi shouted with contempt and hatred. Seriously, dude, I shoved you into my belly with one hand without straining myself. I squatted down near the head of the immobilized tailed one. What? Where did you get those eyes? Kurama roared, seeing my rinnegan, which was shining green, with 10 tomoe. Where? From Shinju, but that's not the point. The first thing you should understand, I poked him in the nose, is that I am many times stronger than Hagoromo and Hamura, and what's more, I'm 1 tooth stronger than your grandmother. I understand, said the fox, and his shackles disappeared as if they had never been there. Okay, get settled in for now, and I need to discuss something with the Hokage. I bet Minato is in shock right now. And Kakashi, when Obito died, and Rin was killed by him, the carbon copy was only 13 years old. After that, he withdrew into himself, and Minato sent him to Anbu. Remembering the events that I was told about quite a long time ago, I slowly walked to the village. However, 2 Junin blocked my way. When I asked, they began to explain that a state of emergency had been declared in Konohagakure no Sato, so entry into the village was prohibited to unknown persons. I did not want to waste time on formalities, so I cast a small genjutsu on the shinobi. Come in, Uzumaki-san. The Konoha people stood at attention and stepped aside. The village wasn't badly damaged, most likely I showed up at the right moment. There were no locals, merchants or guests of the village. I think they were all sent to the shelter. There weren't even any corpses. Having reached the residence, I stopped. Yes, apparently there is a taboo on this building regarding its alteration. This is how I remember it both in the times of Hashirama and in my wonderful childhood. When I was accused of betraying the village, whose ruler I wanted to become. Ah, the times. I felt the Anbu sitting in the hidden cavities of the building. Kakashi was there too. Having entered the building, I headed to the Hokage's office. I knocked and, having heard permission, entered. Hiruzen, Danzo, the old advisors, Minato, and also Jiraiya were there. Hello, respected people. I snapped my fingers, summoning a luxurious chair opposite Minato and sat down in it. The jaws of 6 people fell under the table at once. But as soon as I snapped my fingers, they quickly came to their senses. You probably want to know who I am and what I am. Everyone present nodded confidently. Danzo even strains Kagami's Sharingan, trying to read me. I am Naruto Uzumaki. You know the story of the Sage of 6 Paths. Once upon a time and in another world, I ended up instead of his mother. There are still a lot of nuances, but that's not the point. Simply put, you have a real celestial being in front of you. So you rule the whole world? Minato was surprised. Then what are you doing here? No, absolutely not. I shook my head, remembering my old world. And who do you call other gods? Well, as I said earlier, I am a god of the middle division. There are several gods above me. I only know Shinigami and Alona, they are the high gods. There are a couple more gods, but I have never met them before and know nothing about them. Now I listen to your questions. So the Uzumaki have subjugated the god of death? Minato asked in shock. Aha. No, of course not. It's more of an avatar, just a semblance of his appearance. The most he can do is absorb your souls. No one can curb the true power of the supreme god, much less the Shinigami. What about Kyuubi? Danzo had already asked this question. He's inside me, he said, patting his stomach with a smile. What? Do you understand what you've done? Kaharu and Hamura roared. Danzo was staring at me with his Sharingan under the bandage. I should remove it right away, otherwise he'll drink a lot of blood. Quiet, I shouted. Silence reigned in the office. First of all, don't poke me, I'm not at that level. And secondly, Danzo has appropriated the eyes of several Uchiha, and the rest, except for the third, are also stealing from the treasury. Is this true? Minato became furious. That's not true, Minato. Who are you going to believe? Your advisors are some boy. The old men began to talk nonsense. Weasel, dog, detain the advisors. Ordered the 4th Hokage. And where is Danzo? Here he is. I pulled him out of Shunshin. The decrepit old man, who was once the strongest and most cunning of his kind, was struggling and even trying to influence me with his eye. Having created a huge sword, I cut off his arm, unseal the limb and see what's behind the bandages, I ordered. The Anbu quickly tore off all the bandages and removed the heavy bracelets. Everyone saw the arm and the Sharingans implanted in it. I think Fugaku-san will be very upset. I pretended to be sad in my voice. I will inform the head of the Uchiha clan myself. Tomorrow at dawn, all 3 are to be executed. Minato gave the order, and I tore out Danzo's eye and handed the old man over to the Anbu. Weasel and Dog, or rather Yugao Azuki and Kakashi Hatake, quickly took the old men away. Hiruzen left immediately, realizing that if he were young and handsome, he would have definitely turned gray today. Jiraiya also wanted to leave, but I stopped him. Not so fast. Today we are going for a walk. We still need to tell Kushina something. A nervous laugh was heard. Madara is not responding, a voice was heard in the darkness. He's in the Anbu dungeons and it looks like he'll be staying there for a long time, the female voice answered calmly. Great. He won't interfere with our plans anymore, the man said, almost whispering. Now about the bad. That person who captured Madara. The girl hesitated. Well, the first voice said demandingly. He has a lot of chakra, my origami just turned to dust when I tried to attack him. Very interesting, keep watching. As you command, Leader Sama. It was an ordinary evening. The pubs were filled with tired and exhausted people. They went to drink and eat, going on a well-deserved rest. I was sitting in one of the bars of Konoha with Minato and Jiraiya. It was wonderful. I told him about my childhood, about my travels with Jiraiya. I also told him about how I became a god. I had never had such evenings. I was very happy to see Jiraiya, because it was thanks to him that I became who I am now. Of course, he stole my money, but he returned it with training. My father too, in that world I didn't really know him, but now I will get to know him together with the little one. So what's up with Obito? He asked him, taking a sip from a bowl of sake. There was a strange seal on his heart. In addition, his brain was thoroughly washed, Minato answered bitterly. Will there be a chance to return him to the shinobi state? Yes, but it won't be soon, Jiraiya said quietly, to which Minato only nodded. I see. What's wrong with his eye? Sealed. That's even better, I replied, and we continued drinking. Even during our conversation, I noticed an origami trying to scratch me. It didn't cause me any pain, but it really pissed me off. I didn't want to make any noise, so I tried to destroy it quietly. I burned it the first time, but Nagato apparently didn't calm down and decided to find out everything about me. Let it be, I have nothing to hide. After sitting for a while, we said goodbye to Jiraiya, and I went with Minato. Listen, aren't you mad at Mom and me? Minato asked uncertainly. When I learned the truth about you, I was angry, but then it all passed. I was proud that I was your son. At these words, the Hokage smiled, but that was in my world, now you have your own child, and my parents remained there. The smile changed to sadness. Listen Minato, is there any unnecessary land? Yes, on the outskirts of the village, but why? Minato, I'm 2000 years old, I'm already big and I need to live separately, I said in a faint serious tone. The Hokage laughed. We walked on in silence, but with smiles on our faces. Since Kushina and the little one are in the hospital, we can spend the night here, and tomorrow they will draw up the documents for me. Minato gave me a room and almost immediately went to bed. Now I can think about my great plans for the future. I do not plan to stay in this world for long, no more than 5 to 10 years. There are plenty of other worlds that need to be visited. In this world, I can capture all the tailed beasts. No matter how much the countries get mad at me for taking away their weapons. The beasts themselves are probably insanely tired of the Jinchuriki. And they need freedom. After that, we should probably unite all the countries into one and give impetus to the development of this world. Maybe at least here we will be able to create peace throughout the world. With these thoughts, I fell asleep. The seal, Shinigami said in shock, it cracked. What? All the gods responded in unison. Urgently, call everyone. If we don't strengthen the seal, then things are bad. And if it breaks, then even our forces won't be enough to stop it. Commentary on Meet the God of the Middleweight Division. The plot has been changed, the pairing remains, that plot has reached a dead end and that's why I froze it. Everyday affairs. The alarm I set rang at exactly 8:59. 3 seconds later, I was already dressed. I was wearing standard shinobi sandals. Despite the name, they were much more comfortable than my old shoes. White pants, a black t-shirt, and a golden cloak completed my look. No need to look at me so reproachfully. God can. Shinigami generally wear a bone cloak. Half a second later, I found myself in the square, standing a little further away from the Hokage and the rest of those present. Minato was surrounded by his 4 loyal bodyguards. Kakashi was among them. He activated the Sharingan and was looking me over point blank, which couldn't help but irritate me. In response, I sent an impulse into his eye and pointed with my finger that he shouldn't do that. Fugaku, who was standing next to the 4th Hokage, also wanted to look at me with his clan eyes, but when he saw how the carbon copy twitched, he changed his mind. A few minutes later, a squad of shinobi led the former elders into the square. Having forced the latter to their knees, the ninja stood in formation. Dear villagers, shinobi and ordinary citizens, Minato spoke firmly and confidently. His voice carried across the entire square and was clearly heard by the crowd. Yesterday, documents were found about thefts and misappropriation of other people's property. All this was revealed thanks to our new friend, whom I will introduce you to after the execution. In total, according to our data, over 3 billion ryo were stolen. Even I was shocked at this. You can build Konoha 2.0 anew, maybe even several times, and there will still be some left over, and how many packs of ramen. We also found out that 3 of my advisors were involved in wantonly cruel murders and torture, but I didn't listen anymore. All my thoughts were occupied with such a long-forgotten thing as that very noodles at Old Man Tuki's. Immediately after the Hokage's speech ended, an angry cry was heard from the crowd, the same one taken up by many other voices. Kill the bastards. The already mad roar of the crowd brought me back to the real world. The executioner did not keep me waiting long, and a second later the head of the first elder fell from his shoulders and rolled towards the crowd, and then the second head went there too. The shinobi who held the fences themselves kicked the heads into the crowd. The crowd of people cackled contentedly. They were thirsty for retribution. Then I looked at Danzo. A beaten, cut-up old man was kneeling. He knew that he had only a few seconds left to live. But even despite this, his face did not reflect fear, not a single hint of any weakness. The end. His head calmly rolled towards the same roaring crowd. Justice has been served. The 4th Hokage of the Leaf Village announced loudly. The crowd applauded him with whistles. I don't think the advisors were bothering them that much. It was just the fact that they had done it that made them angry. Now I can introduce you to the one who helped us expose the evil that had been hidden from justice for decades. Minato called me over. Standing next to him, I looked at the crowd. My name is Uzumaki Naruto. I did not hide or drag it out. The crowd hooted and thanked. The reaction of the shinobi was quite expected. Everyone knows about it from the Shinobi Academy. But there they talk about the Rinnegan as if it were a legend, and here I am. A living legend, so to speak. Apparently, my eyes confused them. Although ordinary people most likely do not know about the Rinnegan, I can do a lot of things and can do a lot of things. If someone in this village needs help, no matter how difficult the request, I will help with what I can. The doors of my house are always open to you. Minato-san will tell you where my house is. Having finished my not very fiery speech, I stood back behind my father. Also, I would like to add that I have decided to name my son after our, so to speak, whistleblower, Naruto, Minato said. The people applauded him and he left the podium. Seeing that the action was over, the people also began to leave. Soon the square was empty. After the execution, I decided to go into the Yamanaka clan shop and buy a huge bouquet. It was cool inside and smelled of flowers. After consulting with the seller. No, that's not it. After tormenting me with questions. Who is this for? For what holiday? What kind of relationship are you with her or him? Well, you never know, Kami, ha ha ha. One very curious Yamanaka finally created a masterpiece of flowers for me. I paid and left the shop. The sun's rays immediately warmed me. I immediately noticed the observer. He hides skillfully, but he is still far from the Kakashi of my world. Come out, I said loud enough for them to hear me. A young girl came out from behind the tree. Who are you? My name is Yugao Azuki. I'm 16 years old, the girl introduced herself briskly. 2 years younger than the carbon copy, and already in Minato's service. I realized this by the presence of the Anbu seal on her shoulder. Do you know that spying on people is bad? Especially without the Hokage's knowledge. Sorry, it's just that after I saw your power, she seemed to be getting nervous, too much so, I ask you to take me as a student. She shouted and bowed her head. Okay, I answered. In that world I taught the idiot Konohamaru and he learned something, I think, and here he is already a Jonin plus he also serves in Anbu. Really? The girl beamed. She even jumped for joy. Why not? I don't seem to have anything to do right now. Come to the 7th training ground today at 12, I winked at her. Thank you, squeaked this charming miracle and disappeared. After that, as I had planned earlier, I went to the hospital. Life was returning to normal. The Kyuubi attack on Konoha had not caused as many casualties as in my world. The destroyed buildings had almost finished being repaired, and the residents were enjoying the new day. I reached the hospital. Finding the reception desk, I asked the question that interested me. Good morning. In which room is Uzumaki Kashina? The nurse looked at me and, apparently recognizing me, immediately gave me the number. Hello, Uzumaki-san. She's in 34. Having found the right room, I quietly entered. Kushina was snoring, and in her arms lay peacefully a fair-haired, chubby lump. When I put the flowers in the water, Kushina opened her eyes. Shinobi training was making itself felt. Hi. I sat down next to her. I saw you when the masked man attacked us, Kushina said, rubbing her eyes with her hand. Yes. Thank you for saving me. She clearly felt unsure. As a mother, she tried to protect her child from any kind of danger. And I am no exception. At the same time, she realized that I saved her family, so she had nothing to fear. It's my duty as your son. Yes, Mom, I am your son, but I came from another world. Kushina wasn't even indignant, but now I know for sure that she woke up. Why are you here then? It's a very long story. Perhaps it will be easier to show. Having created a kind of screen, I demonstrated my life. Good and bad moments. Watching took at least 2 hours. She was not even embarrassed that I created crap out of nothing. Forgive us, she could barely articulate the words. Even though I had shown her my entire happy and long life, she was still most worried about the very beginning. You, like your father, have nothing to apologize for. I sat down next to him and hugged him. This was in that world, in mine. You are raising your own son, who will not repeat my story now. His parents are alive, he will live in love. I hope so. Kushina pressed herself closer to me. I remembered that Kushina would be in the hospital for a long time without Kyuubi and decided to make her happy. Your chakra channels are torn, let me heal them. I snapped my fingers. Well, how about it? I feel relieved, the chakra is flowing evenly. Kushina closed her eyes blissfully, but the little one immediately woke up. Will we still have time to talk when you are discharged? Day after tomorrow. Okay. I smiled and disappeared behind the door. Sitting on one of the pillars at the 7th training ground, I smoked a cigarette and waited for my young Padawan. Yeah, only the grass from the pure world can compare to Sarutobi's tobacco. There were still 15 minutes left until 12, and she was already approaching the training ground. I lit my cigarette when I saw her. She was wearing a standard Chunin outfit and had a katana on her back. Hello, this miracle bowed to me. Okay, let's skip this crap. You're my student, not my subordinate. I never liked that. Okay, she squeaked. What can you do? What elements? Reserve. Well, I'm a sword master. Of the elements, wind and water. Good at genjutsu and tai. Reserve. She thought about the last one. A good reserve. Now I'll know what to work with, he said and jumped off the pole. There's no point in chasing you around like a snotty genin, we'll work on techniques. I'm not strong in kenjutsu, but techniques in genjutsu, that's for me. Remember, my techniques are head and shoulders above the current ones. The girl nodded. Wind and water, that is. What techniques do you know? Well, water wall, cutting jet, water bullets, water dragon, wind blades, vacuum bullets and breakthrough. Not bad, half of the A rank. Okay, let's see. Unfortunately, I have to see the Hokage now. Come here tomorrow at 9 in the morning. The girl nodded and disappeared. I quickly reached Minato's office. Jiraiya and Hiruzen were already there. I greeted them and sat down on one of the chairs. Today I didn't want to create that chair as pompously as last time. Here you go, the Hokage handed me the papers. How fast? Here's everything you asked for. Thank you. Listen, how are you going to help people? Minato couldn't help himself. How much strength did you lose because of the cripples after the Third World War? Well, about 35%. Well, I can treat wounds and illnesses of any severity. Legs, arms, eyes and everything else. I can even resurrect. Hiruzen wanted to ask about this, but I interrupted him. But there is a rule written by death itself and certified by time. The dead must not be touched. I can only give you time to talk to your wife. The third Hokage nodded. Minato can give us a room. No one should disturb us, he nodded. Having entered there in a place with the former Hokage, I summoned Sarutobi Bawako. 15 minutes, no more. Thank you Naruto, you have grown into a worthy man, he smiled. Hey, thanks old man. Leaving them alone, I took the documents and headed to the Uzumaki quarter. This place is not lacking in power, there were seals at every step. Using my power, I removed the barriers with a wave of my hand. I decided to leave only those that served as protection on the storage facilities. A wave, and all the houses are like new, and a hot spring appears nearby. A wave, and all the weeds are replaced with neat lawns and flower beds. Taking off, I headed to the headman's house. It was a hard day, and tomorrow will be even harder. Commentary on everyday affairs. The editor doesn't work, we use PB. Clown, Padawan and career as a doctor. The clock showed around 6 o'clock in the morning. A strange noise was heard in my already restless head. It seemed that the old man wanted something from me. It felt as if I was being hit in the brain with a hammer. To interrupt this nightmare, I went to the gathering of the gods, taking coffee with me. Finding myself in a huge hall, I looked around. This place was gloomy and a little creepy. All the walls were a vile green color, and it seemed that the ceiling would soon break the gloomy columns that barely held it up. But the creepiest thing was not the columns or the walls, but the cage. It was jumping desperately, and incomprehensible sounds were coming from it. All the gods were holding it back. Everyone was here. Those I had never seen, and those I knew very well. Finding the one who called me was not difficult. Shinigami was sitting on the cage, applying all his power to holding back something that was there. Naruto, your mother, get your god lazy ass here and put your hands on this seal. I flew to the seal as fast as I could, but alas, I didn't make it. The old man flew off the cage. Its gates opened. All the gods without exception howled long and drawn out. This is something new. Ladies and gentlemen, someone shouted from the cage, I have been waiting for this for thousands of years and here I am again with you. If this freak gets into my kingdom, I will strangle you. Amaterasu addressed the god of death who had risen from the floor. Now, don't get cocky, my dear. Your nose isn't big enough to talk to me like that. I'm taller than you. After all, Shinigami said importantly, it's not just a brat like you who could suffer from it. Oh, how formidable we are, muttered the terribly displeased goddess of the sun and disappeared into the portal. The other gods left the hall after her. All except Jashin. I always liked this half-wit. God smiled cheerfully. Jishi, the voice said tenderly. A hand came out of the cage and grabbed one of the bars, then a leg appeared. You're the only one who understood me. Wait, isn't he a bit too colorful? And why did all the gods hold him back at first, and now they've just run away? I can smell something bad. I've gathered all my inner strength to help the old man in a life or death fight. Now a second hand appears, its fingers also grasping the edge of the cage. A second leg, what strange shoes he has. And then, he suddenly pokes his head out. A clown, the coffee cup flies down somewhere. He's gone. Are you kidding? A clown, you're the only one who understood me. Here's a tangerine, a fruit appeared in this weirdest hand. Jashin happily took it and started to peel it, but it was no use. This fruit exploded, and his hand was torn off. The room smelled unbearably of some kind of chemicals. Jashin howled with pleasure. What's your name? He asked cheerfully, turning to me. Goosebumps ran across my body. Okay, stop panicking. What am I doing like my first meeting with the bloody demon of the mist Zabuza? I abruptly raised my hand and threw this creature away from me. The clown hit the wall, making a hole in it, stood up and went to tease Jashin. He apparently realized that he had no reason to compete with me. I abruptly moved to Shinigami. What is this? I asked the god of death. Sit down, I'll tell you, the supreme god's voice carried the weariness of centuries. Hooray! What a fairy tale, I answered sarcastically. Oh, I wish it was a fairy tale, Shinigami said sadly, not noticing the joke. 4,000 years ago, we, the gods, decided to have some fun. Jashin suggested creating a new god. Someone who would amuse us. We decided to call him Show God. But each of us was greedy, we all gave him a small power that we can use. I gave this god the ability to resurrect and kill. He is the only being in the universe that can bypass the rule of the dead. Jashin gave him a love of sadism, Amaterasu, the power of humor, and Alona gave Show God time travel. The other gods also gave him an ability, but our gifts became too terrible a thing that we have ever done. Of course, he is weaker than any of us, but he has our strength, that is, he has something from each god. Therefore, just as magnets with the same pole cannot connect, so none of us can kill him. We have no power over him. Shah God tried to approach us, but each time something prevented him. So what? Let's just live and live, what's wrong with that? So for the first 1,000 years everything was fine. Jokes, entertainment, laughter, dancing, tricks. What else do the gods need? You are the only one who lived as a hermit among us. We are used to leading a different way of life. But one day, like a small child, he got out of hand and began to travel around the worlds and joke there as much as he wanted. At first we thought that he wanted to have his own world of jokes. But we were wrong. Now there are 15 fewer worlds. Just let him try to appear in the worlds where I have been or want to visit, I will tear off his arms and legs. And I actually wanted to see the countless different universes, and not emptiness. Listen further, Kid. To contain him, we decided to build this cage, and to seal it, we combined our powers. For 10,000 years, we lived peacefully, without fear of escape, because Shah God was too weak to get out of it without anyone's help. None of us wanted to help him, because everyone valued their own world, like you. However, recently we noticed that someone began to pour power into him. He broke out only thanks to it. Listen, Jester God, I shouted, how did you get out? I snapped my fingers and he began to speak. He came out of the cage. God laughed nastily. Ah, that's not what I mean, I exclaimed irritably, who helped you get out? Ah, that, he drawled the first syllable of the word, the Otsutsuki clan, he admitted cheerfully. Why did Otsutsuki help you get out of the cage? I didn't want to step on the same rake a second time, so I had to ask in detail. I had to become their guide to the worlds, and also be a striking force before the other gods. I saw him, old man, and you said that he wouldn't do anything to us. Looking at the clown, I gloomily crossed my arms. What are we going to do? Don't call me that, brat. Shinigami's face was sullen and thoughtful. We can't seal him now. Jashin, you seem to be crazy about him, right? So take this jerk for yourself. But if he escapes from you, outsmarts you, dismembers you, or does all of the above and escapes, I will send you to an unknown destination 200,000 light years from here. As you command, Supreme God Sama. Bowing theatrically, Jishi grabbed Sho God by the scruff of the neck and dragged him towards the portal he had created on the go. Once inside, they disappeared. Damn them. The last thing I need is these stupid little nasty half-gods. I'm counting on your reliable shoulder of help, Naruto. I hope you won't mind doing me a favor in this. The god of death addressed me. Of course, it's in my interests too. Okay, I have to go now. I have things to do. Opening the portal, I disappeared into it. Having not had my coffee, I decided to fix it at the nearest coffee shop. Sitting down on a comfortable table, I drank regular black coffee. Why didn't I use my almighty power? Why, they'll make me coffee anyway. In a couple of minutes, my order was ready. They brought me the drink of the gods, in some strange colored cup. Well, no, thoughts about the clown aside. Today is too good a day to ruin it with memories of that misunderstanding. I drank it all in one gulp. It invigorates, but it's not ideal. Noticing how the owner of the coffee shop hesitated, I looked at him. He, approaching me on cotton legs, asked if I could cure his son of cancer. Sure, just take me to the room where he is. The man's eyes widened and he called me to follow him. Having gone up to the second floor, the owner of the establishment took me to his son. Phew, he's really bad, he has no more than a month left. I sat down next to him and ran my hand along his body. The kid has lung cancer, he was breathing very heavily. Click, and your son is already healthy, now everything will be fine. And all you have to do is feed him, because now he needs to regain his lost strength. I think that in a couple of months he will already be back on his feet. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. The man bowed, beside himself with joy. He finally heard how calmly the child was breathing now. You're welcome. Sorry, but I'm in a hurry right now. See you soon, I said and disappeared. Finding myself on one of the pillars, I lit a cigarette. There were still 20 minutes left until 9, and she was already at the training ground again. I smoked a cigarette, and she waited silently. Having finished this action, I jumped off the pillar. Hello, I greeted. Hello. So, what techniques will you teach me? She asked, to which I took out a scroll and handed it to Yugao. Choose yourself, you're not a genin anymore. Here are all the wind techniques ever created. Her beautiful eyes widened, and she began to study the scroll with diligence. Here I caught myself thinking that I liked her, as she liked me. It's funny, though, especially her thoughts about me, brr. Although I must admit, she has everything she needs. Your mother. What am I thinking? She is my student, and I am the teacher. Here, after some time she pointed her finger at the roaring dragon technique. Oh, well, let's try it. Having made seals, I released a powerful stream of air from my mouth. There was empty space along the path of the technique. The technique is not difficult, it's just very chakra consuming. Try it. The girl began to make seals, and then exhaled with her entire chest, and with a very good chest. Damn it, not bad, you'll last a couple more times. After repeating the technique 2 more times, Yugao fell to her knees. Sitting under one of the trees, the girl buried her face in my shoulder, and I began to slowly pump chakra into her. After about 40 minutes, she woke up. What? Did I fall asleep? What a miracle she is. Yeah, Not everyone can perform an S-rank technique 3 times. Let's go, I'll take you home. Having sat her on my back, I headed towards her house. Having buried her nose in my neck, the girl began to snore. The house turned out to be 1 story with a small terrace and a vegetable garden. Having entered the house, I put the poor thing on the sofa. Having covered her with a blanket, I left the house. When I reached the block, I saw an impressive crowd. Crippled, terminally ill, simply sick, not a single healthy person. Having set up a small tent, I began to receive. The civilian population goes first, and only then the shinobi, I shouted and started to launch several people at a time. Where are your instruments? Asked the old man with pneumonia. Why? I asked with a smile and snapped my fingers. My vision. One of the patients shouted. How easy it is to breathe. Strick inhaled deeply. And so the treatment day began. In total, I received about 300 people, of which 200 were shinobi. As soon as I finished with the last patient, Minato appeared. Well, how do you like the results of my work? I asked him. Okay, I like it. In a week you'll return our entire combat capability to the pre-war levels. Don't forget that they all need a month to adapt. Well, that's understandable. Thank you. That's all for today, said the Hokage and disappeared in a flash. Entering the house, I wordlessly laid down on the soft bed and fell asleep right away. He simply created limbs for them and cured illnesses with a click of his finger, Zetsu said. I have to meet him, Pain said. I think I can arrange this. The plant disappeared underground. Who's a hitman? The morning greeted me with annoying rays that broke through the curtains. Somehow getting up, I headed to the kitchen. With a click, coffee and toast appeared in my hand. Hey, this is Show God. I decided to make you happy and send a time traveler to your world. Have a nice day. How he irritates me. Immediately, the cry of this very god jokester was heard. Sorry Naruto. I didn't keep an eye on him. We'll seal him very soon. Jashin said quickly. A man who has fallen into Sakura Haruno, were the last words I managed to hear from the clown before everything went quiet. Bitch. I read about these time travelers. They are going to become super strong here now. Learn techniques. Kill all the main bastards, but I have already succeeded here. All that remains is to seal Zetsu and that's it, and then let them figure it out themselves. How do I know the future? Good question. As strange as it may be, I read manga and watched the anime, Naruto. The pure world is essentially paradise. Well, one day, completely by chance, I came across the soul of an anime fan. When he saw me, he almost pissed himself with joy. Then he told me about manga and anime, and I was moved. I studied all the material, looked at myself, laughed. That's where I learned everything. Although, in principle, I have nothing to fear. This is a time traveler to Sakura, and what can she do? In my world, she did not stand out in any way. Okay, let's watch. Having tidied myself up, I headed towards the hospital. Well, you're a freak. Well, you did me a favor. I'll make sure he's sealed. I'll pour more power than anyone else into the seal on the cage for this goat, and the Otsutsuki will know the power of a real god, a power they've never even dreamed of. I cursed this wretched thing. Every person who saw me smiled and nodded. I remember they used to look at me differently, with fear and hatred, but 2,000 years have passed since then. I always like the morning in Konoha, especially if you walk through the center. Both here and there it smells of pastries, coffee and flowers. I went into one of the bakeries and bought a box of donuts and 2 coffees. I need to feed my student. She will be pleased. By the way, the owner of the establishment turned out to be the mother of one of the shinobi whose leg I returned. So now I am a welcome guest here. Ha, I even got an 80% discount. I sat at the training ground for half an hour, periodically heating up donuts and coffee. Yugao, as usual, arrived earlier than the appointed time. But why did she take Gecko Hayate with her? Hello, Naruto-sensei, can my friend train with us? She asked, smiling. Good boy, he maintains subordination in front of others. Okay, but I need to talk to him. Here, have a snack for now. I handed her the donuts and coffee. In a moment, the box and glass disappeared from my hands, and you're coming with me. I headed towards the memorial to the fallen. The young Chunin tensed up, but went. We got there in silence. Kid, do you know that you have cancer? He was surprised, but nodded. I assume you didn't go to the hospital. Now he shook his head. Click, and the disease was gone. Taking a deep breath, he stopped coughing, like during my first Chunin exam. What? But how did you do it? Shinobi was surprised. A company secret. Now tell me how you met Yugao. Jumping onto a rock, I prepared to listen. At first we studied together at the academy, then we were sometimes sent on joint missions, and then we simultaneously became chunin. Then she decided to tie herself to work in Anbu. I wanted to too, but my chakra volume, skills and techniques were not enough to get there, Hayate said, not forgetting to take deep breaths. And you decided to come to me. I changed the subject. Yes, the chunin did not hide. Okay, let's see what you can do, let's go back. I jumped off the rock and together with Hayate we headed towards Yugao. When we returned, she was finishing her last donut. Seeing us, she wiped the crumbs from her face and ran to meet us. Have you eaten? The girl nodded. Excellent, take the scroll with water techniques, call me when you choose. Taking the scroll, she sat down to study it. Now we'll deal with you. I don't think you have a predisposition to the elements, the guy shook his head, genjutsu. Yes, and also good swordsmanship. I'm not strong in kenjutsu, but we will learn genjutsu. What is genjutsu in your understanding? Illusory techniques, Hayate quickly answered. True, but not quite. Genjutsu is a very dangerous thing, many underestimate it. The Uchiha train more ninjutsu, and they practice genjutsu very superficially. And they use the Sharingan only to improve reaction and attention, occasionally for weak illusions. Unfortunately, your control is lousy. It is not suitable for my training. And you will have less chakra than Yugao. I give you a week to develop your reserve and chakra. Then you will come, okay. The guy nodded and, having said goodbye to my student, headed for the exit. Where is he going? She asked in surprise. To train control. If he can't, then I'll be powerless here, I answered. It seemed the girl was upset. Okay, let's show what you chose. Here, she pointed her finger at the bursting stream technique. Senju Tobarama's technique. He used this technique to cut down about 10 centuries old trees. Yugao thought for a minute, counting the thickness. No, you won't teach this. But why? Oh, what a frowning face. Because you'll immediately collapse with severe chakra exhaustion. Your reserves are too small for that. You're not a senju after all. If you want, I can show you a simplified version of this technique. The girl's eyes lit up. Look. I've made several seals. Sweden. Cutting jet, a stream of water under high pressure burst out of my mouth and cut one pillar in half. Try it, and I'll sit and watch. You sit all the time. Maybe you can do something. She began to complain. Why? I'm used to sitting, relaxing and enjoying life, putting my hands behind my head. I sat down under a tree, work, and then I'll feed you. Lazybones, the girl frowned and began practicing the technique, and I dozed off. I woke up suddenly. I felt chakra under me. I pulled an overgrown cactus out of the ground and blocked its chakra. Well, we got you, Aloe. But how? He croaked. What do you want with your butt on the doorframe? Actually, I was planning to catch you a little later, but since it's such a case. My leader wants to meet you, the plant continued to wheeze. Who are you telling this to? Do you think I don't know that you are your own leader, and that everyone from Indra to Obito were your puppets? You can't stop me. I'll carry out my plan anyway. He began to shout. Nope. Bye-bye. A click, and the cactus began to evaporate. No. He screamed. What have you done? I will tea. The scream was interrupted. Aha. He will take revenge. How? I erased him from reality. Yugao, finish up. I still have some business to run, I said, standing up and stretching my bones. I've already finished and I'm very, very tired, she smiled slyly. Do you want me to carry you? Yeah, she said already on my back. I grabbed her buttocks, the girl gasped, but didn't object, and then I lowered my hands under her knees. That's how we got to Ichiraku. God, how I wanted this. Having inhaled the smell of noodles with all my lungs, I flowed across the chair. Good afternoon, young men, smiled young Tsuki. 3 large portions, and 1 medium. 5 minutes later, 4 portions of fragrant noodles were in front of us. 5 minutes later, my plates were empty. Yugao was having trouble finishing hers. How much can you fit in? The girl was surprised, pushing the plate away. Here, he patted himself on the stomach, you can walk home yourself. Okay then, she pouted. How much do I owe you? 140 ryo, the noodle maker smiled. Thank you, I said, leaving the money on the counter and putting Yugao on my back. Okay, I'll take it. Hooray. After seeing Yugao off, I headed to Minato. Let Nagato wait a bit. Since it was getting late, Minato should already be home. On the way, I stopped at the pastry shop where I bought donuts today and bought a huge cake. When I got to the Hokage's house, I knocked on the door. I'm coming. Kushina's voice was heard. Naruto. The former Jinchuriki shouted loudly upon seeing me. Naruto, hi, the Hokage came out with the little one. I shook his hand and walked past. The blonde miracle stretched his plump little hands towards me. Having handed the cake to Kushina, I went to wash my hands. As soon as I came out, I received the little one in my arms. He blinked his eyes and tried to gesture with his hands. Here is the first photo. Kushina smiled and ran for the camera. Having taken the photo and placed it in the albums, they sat down to drink tea. Conversation with Nagato and Naruto's birthday. Time passed, Melky grew by leaps and bounds. In a week it will be his first birthday. The whole village is actively preparing for this event, and I am watching this through a crystal ball from the hot springs and sipping a mojito. Yugao has whistled to the border and will return only in 6 months. This is due to the strange activity of the country of Earth. Hayate was never able to regain control, so he did not end up as my student, but I gave him a scroll on genjutsu. People occasionally came with their ailments and other things. Naruto-san, a clear girl's voice shouted. Ah, it's you, Yuhiko. I sighed, getting out of the hot water. Yuhiko is Yugao's girlfriend, they serve together in Anbu. She is in love with me. Having dressed, I went to meet her. Hello, did you want something? Yes, I want to invite you to the party. Oh, you're not the first one to invite me, I lied, smiling awkwardly at her. Oh please, all the girls will envy me, oh please. She made her signature puppy eyes. Okay, I'll pick you up today at 6. Hooray, I'll wait, Yuhiko shouted joyfully and ran away. Okay, that can wait, but Nagato won't wait anymore. The Rain Village didn't greet me very friendly. Nagato had already sensed me and was heading towards me. About halfway there, I was surrounded by 4 puppets. One grabbed me and started sucking out my chakra. Well, as long as it would last. A few minutes later, the puppet exploded. Well, let's talk, otherwise I'll get angry and rip your blinkers out, I addressed one of the puppets. You are strong, but can you withstand this? Yahiko asked me. Banshu Tenon, but I didn't even move. In short, I'm tired of this. The chakra receivers of each body disappeared, and the people in cloaks fell to the ground. Looking around, I headed towards the high tower. Quickly finding the room where Nagato was, I easily kicked the door down. Seeing me, Konan was about to start attacking, but with one swing of my hand I pinned her to the wall. Do you consider yourself a god? I asked Pain, turning my gaze from Konan to him. But tell me first, what right do you have to do this? Although, maybe I underestimated you and am too strict about your abilities. Maybe you can summon a person from the pure world. And since you are a god, maybe you know someone like you. But that is unlikely. You are simply mocking, putting yourself on the same level with us. You are just dust under your feet. Your power is in your eyes. But any Uchiha can awaken such people if he really wants to. Should we then call this entire clan divine? I will tell you who the gods are. I am the god of the middle division. I can create anything I want out of nothing. I can heal fatal wounds and illnesses. I can wipe out your entire village with a snap, so that there won't even be a trace of it left, and I have enough chakra for 1,000,000 infinite Tsukuyomi. Compared to me, Rakuto is a brat and an amoeba. But even despite this, I'm only in the middle division. And there are those who are much stronger than me, there are those who call themselves high gods. Both of their eyes widened as they spoke. I know Shinigami himself, I can travel between worlds 10 times a day, and you can't do this. I was already shouting the last words in his face. Then I sighed, putting my thoughts in order, created a cigarette and a flame on my index finger. I lit the cigarette on it and continued. I can heal you, but you have to promise me to forever abandon your plans to create this fucking Tsukuyomi, got it? Nagato nodded uncertainly. A click, and the barrel he was sitting in was gone. I let go of Konan, and she helped Nagato sit up. Thank you for setting that idiot straight. Konan thanked with tears in her eyes. You're welcome. I waved my hand. Nagato, I see that you're a good person. Besides, you're also an Uzumaki. One day, I'll have to leave this world. I don't want to leave this world without protection, so I'll need your help. You'll become the hero of this world, and God forbid you let me down. I'll give you a little bit of my power and improve your eyes. Is there any danger? Nagato asked cautiously as Konan stretched his arms and legs. Yes, but with my power you will stop them. I won't let you down, Nagato said firmly. I hope so. He snapped his fingers. Well, how is it? I feel a power, very powerful, and the eyes no longer consume chakra. I gave you only a grain of power. Now do you understand how strong I am? Yes. Now get your village in order and talk to Yahiko. Click. The red-haired man appeared in front of them. Bye. You have 15 minutes. I said and disappeared. When the fox broke free, Orochimaru was dissecting another corpse. Since his laboratory was deep, he was not afraid of its destruction, but the sudden silence confused him. After washing his hands and putting on his robe, he headed for the exit. He found himself not far from the clearing where the nine tails appeared, but the emptiness and ringing silence finally dispelled his doubts. The fox was either destroyed or sealed. Realizing that there was nothing to look for here, the Sannin headed to the residence. Having hidden, he approached the office and listened. The conversation amused him, and then made him happy. Danzo and the old men were being executed, now he could forget about the incriminating evidence, and without it he would be able to talk to the Hokage. But a certain Naruto interested him. If he really was God, then he had to be careful with him. Orochimaru disappeared under the floor. I went to pick up Yuhiko as promised. She looked impressive. Black dress, shoes of the same color, stockings and a couple of discreet jewelry. I also looked chic, in my opinion. Red shirt, white pants, white shoes. On top of everything, a robe of the same color as the pants and shoes. Having created a cane for myself, I put on a Guy Fawkes mask. And I met the anonymous fanatic in the clean world. I liked his mask. Now I looked really impressive. Having given Yuhiko a regular masquerade mask, which she immediately put on, we headed to the square. I walked with a crisp step and tapped my cane. Yuhiko walked confidently next to me, taking my arm. People turned to look at us. Girls, young and old, drooled and groaned. Guys gritted their teeth, but if the shinobi immediately understood who was coming, then the civilians decided to teach me a lesson. Hey, you, shouted an 18-year-old guy. Why are you dressed up like turkey? Are you trying to pick up our girls? First of all, don't poke, I'm older than you. I began politely. Fuck you. He began to raise his hand to strike. Why always fists? A kick in the body breaks through the trash cans. Does anyone else have a claim on me? I looked at his friends. They quickly ran to lift their comrade. There were already a lot of people in the square. The merchants couldn't get their goods out fast enough, and the poor Anbu were trying to avoid a crush. And although no one had performed on stage yet, the stands were so packed that it was impossible to die. There was a cordon around the stage. The festival would start at 7, but in the meantime, you could walk around. Yuhiko was jumping from one merchant to another. 15 minutes later, she had about 30 packages that she hid in the seal. Closer to 7 o'clock, we were standing near the stage. The heads of the clans were sitting on chairs. Minato was just getting up on stage. At exactly 7 o'clock, all the hubbub stopped. Dear citizens, Minato exclaimed, a year ago, a fox attacked the village, but thanks to Naruto Uzumaki, we won and got through without losses. Today, we celebrate not only my son's birthday, but also our heroes. He helped many people, restored our fighting ability to the pre-war level. Naruto, come up to the stage. Minato said, standing up and standing behind the podium. The crowd began to cheer. Thank you. I thank the Hokage. I'm not a hero, I can just help and I will, but if they kick me out. I found that guy in the crowd. I'll get angry. Well, now rest. I went downstairs. Then the concert began. After wandering around with Yuhiko for a couple of hours, I saw her off and headed to Minato. Having created a soft toy of Kakashi, I headed to a normal birthday party. I changed my clothes right after I saw the girl off. The Hokage's house was decorated with garlands and lanterns. Kushina opened the door for me. When I went inside, I found Naruto. He was sitting in the living room surrounded by small copies from my world. Everyone was giving gifts, and their parents were sitting in the gazebo in the backyard. I told Kushina that I would come later and headed to the children. Kushina shrugged and went to the others. And here is the pink top. Naruto. The little one squeaked and stood up and headed towards me. Here, this is for you. I gave him the toy. Thank you. Grabbing the toy, little one tried to go with it, but it outweighed him, and then crushed him. The gang laughed, but Sakura looked at me. Shrugging my shoulders for the sake of appearance, I congratulated Naruto once again and headed to the backyard. Pa of Sakura. We were sitting in a circle and looking at Naruto's gifts, then there was a knock on the door. It was a tall guy who looked like Naruto at 16, only his hair was white. Looking at his characteristics, I almost shit myself. Name: Naruto Uzumaki. Title: God of the Middle Division. Level: 99,999 plus. Strength: 9,999 plus dexterity, 5,000 plus intelligence, 99,999 plus luck, 5,000. Chakra. Such numbers do not exist. Control. Such numbers do not exist. Special skills. God, that says it all. Oh my god, what kind of monster is this? I thought, but he disappeared from sight. But instincts took over and we all started to need the kakashi-shaped toy. Nagato decides, Naruto checks. The attacks that were expected any day now finally happened. Minato, after consulting with Hiruzen, sent several more shinobi squads to the border. The entire Leaf Village was preparing for the inevitable war. However, for now I decided not to interfere and left all the future feats and laurels to Nagato. Let him show himself in solving not very serious, but world problems, since he called himself a god. So I have to act as a third party? Nagato asked in surprise. Yeah, I have to be confident in you, so go for it. I took a couple of sips of coffee from the cup. Do you think I can handle it? Of course. You just need to scare Unoki. He is, of course, a stubborn ram, but I believe in you. I patted him on the shoulder in a friendly way. I even came up with a way for you to show up to Unoki. First Konan with her wings will appear, then you. For more pathos, take a cane, made of gold, for example, put on a snow-white robe, in short, become like me. Nagato understood, looking at me. The white suit and thigh-length robe became my companions in life, although sometimes I like the red set, but white is preferable. Okay, you have a week for everything, see you. I said and disappeared. Konan, cancel all meetings as soon as possible and order the tailors to prepare a black suit for me. Okay, a cane or a robe? The girl asked, writing down in her notebook. No, just the suit, and I definitely want it to be with me in 3 days. Okay. Having finished writing, the girl headed for the exit, while Nagato buried himself in writing a letter to the Tsuchikage. Once I reached the border of the country, I headed to the village of Pesca. There is also some work for me there. But before traveling to the desert, I decided to visit Yugao. After all, I hadn't seen her for a long time. Well, I didn't think that everything was so sad for us. Frankly speaking, the outpost looked much worse than bad. There were holes in the wall, hastily boarded up, and in the rings of traps located along the village perimeter, half of all the seals were unloaded, and the kunai and other throwing weapons that should kill all enemies with a joyful whistle were either broken or simply did not exist. In short, the country's defense industry was crying bitter tears. Having passed the gate, I entered the village itself, where I was met by destroyed buildings. As I noticed, several of them were residential, because the lights were on in them. I was surrounded by 5 shinobi. Stay where you are. You have crossed the border into the Fire Nation, a mature man with scars slicing across his adult face said calmly. Most likely, this was the outpost commander. He placed his hand on my shoulder. You are under arrest. We will contact the village hidden in the leaf for further investigation. Idiot, if I were your enemy, there wouldn't be a single stone left of this already smashed outpost. I abruptly moved my shoulder to throw off the Jonin's hand. And you've even gotten your robe dirty. Weasel, mole, boar, fox, come here. The named Anbu of this village appeared in front of me. So why is your defense so bad? Why are a few shabby shinobi meeting a potential enemy, and not 2 from Anbu and as prescribed by the instructions? The fighters who met me preferred not to interfere. If this man commands Anbu, then he is apparently a pretty big shot. We just returned from patrol and didn't have time, the fighter in the mole mask answered uncertainly. As far as I know, 2 people go on patrol. Yes, but a signal was received about an attack on the caravan and, the Anbu faltered. Then why do you need regular shinobi at the outpost? I rubbed the bridge of my nose tiredly. Okay, I won't tell Minato anything. I waved my hand. The holes in the walls began to close up, the traps quietly slammed, the buildings were restored. Are there any wounded? There are 4 corpses, Yugao said in a hoarse voice. The others simply watched in fascination as the outpost was restored. Let's go. I took Yugao by the hand. The rest of you should get yourselves in order, I'll check in half an hour. The shinobi scattered, the Anbu returned to their positions. Having put her on my back, we headed towards one of the buildings. Are you tired? A lot, she buried her face in my shoulder. I missed you so much. It's okay, you'll be back home in a week. But I still have 3 months here. I don't think so, my future governor must settle the conflict. I said opening the door. Apparently this is the house of the outpost chief. The viceroy, Yugao asked in surprise when I sat her down on the bed. Yes, I'm not going to stay in this world for long, there are still many alternative worlds and other universes. So you're leaving? Yugao asked sadly, tucking her legs under herself. Why are you so upset? I asked, hugging her. You and Naruto are coming with me. Having created donuts and coffee, I give them to Yugao. What? I'm going to travel through worlds. The girl's eyes lit up with excitement and delight. Yeah, but that's in about 15 years. The little one needs to grow up. The girl was eating donuts. Let's wait, she said, finishing the last piece. You have crumbs. I reached out to her and kissed her. Okay, I'll be home soon, I said, breaking away from her. More. At home, I said and disappeared. Buka. Yugao, putting on a mask, also disappeared. There were 14 such outposts in total, 2 for each country. The Yugao outpost was on the border with the stone, which is why there was such devastation. The rest were normal. Finding myself at the edge of the desert, I took off. 4 hours later, the outlines of a village and about 100 chakra sources appeared. There were about 15 Jonin there, the rest were Chunin and Genin. The sand village had always been weak. The village's main forces were the puppeteers and Shukaku. However, now there are no more than 30 puppet masters left, half of whom are old, and the Tanuki maniac is unlikely to help them. The main problem with the sand is the small amount of resources. Approaching the passage, several Jonin stopped me. The Chunin on the wall tensed up. Well, I expected that. I removed one limiter out of 1,000, now for them I am like Son Goku, and this is 1/100th of a drop in the ocean. The purpose of the visit? The Jonin asked calmly, but the small beads of sweat gave him away. I want to see your cage, I said, returning the limiter. The shinobi relaxed a little. You understand that if they don't let me in, it will be bad. The shinobi nodded. Don't be afraid, in a couple of hours your village will change. The shinobi stepped aside, but several Jonin decided to accompany me. The village was worse than the first time I came here. Vagabonds, thin people with weathered faces and dry lips. We got to the residence under surprised looks. After passing the checkpoint, I was sent to Ross's office. Hello, how can I help you? He asked, holding out his hand to me. Good afternoon, I shook his hand. I'll be brief, I came here for the one-tail, but not just like that. What can you offer? I take the one-tailed one, you get the resources. No, Rasa answered sharply. I can take him by force, but you won't get any help from me. Henge threw out of his sight. The cage swallowed, especially since I take tailed beasts from all the villages. I have the 9-tailed one. Okay, but will my son survive? Yes. The tension in the office eased. What about the village? Rasa asked seriously. You get a few fresh lakes, I think you'll figure it out from there. I agree. Of course, this is your last chance. Great, I've already taken Shukaku, I think everything will be fine in your family now. Getting up from the table, I headed for the exit. Oh, right, I snapped my fingers and disappeared. Madness reigned inside me. Shukaku roared, spat, tried to beat Kurama, but the latter grabbed him by the tail and threw him against the wall. You, sandbag, calm down. Kurama roared. Don't shut me up, you flea-bitten rug. Calm down, morons. Kurama, why is this bug telling us what to do? The Tanuki squealed. I'm tired of him, Naruto, take him away, Kurama begged. You are safe here, I will gather you all soon, and now go to sleep. Click, the animals fell asleep. Minato. Shikaku burst into the office. The Tsuchikage sent a peace treaty. Commentary on Nagato decides, Naruto checks. So, I have a lot of studying to do, so the next chapter is closer to Ing. The chapter is not marked, as soon as it appears she will edit it, but for now PB. We are also writing reviews. A day in the life. Sakura. 3 months have passed since I met that god. I wonder why he looks so much like Naruto. Maybe it is him, and the name is the same. It's all strange. Sitting in my room, I thought about this world. As I understand it, the canon is buried here instead of Naruto's parents. They are alive, and Jiraiya doesn't seem to be going anywhere. Maybe Akatsuki is not here and won't be here. Although they didn't become so famous right away. And how can we find out? Mom, Dad, is there a gang of super strong and dangerous criminals in your world, different from one anime I watched? After that, they'll lock me up in the interrogation department for the rest of my life. Okay, let's assume they are not here, but that's not certain. The most important thing is that Danzo and his henchmen are not here. Then another important question arises. Why would that clown send a time traveler to a place where he is not needed? Maybe there will be even greater evil here, like those monstrous lunatics at Suki or someone else. How confusing it all is. Ah, too much information for a small brain. Is Sakura going for a walk? Mom asked with a smile, looking into my room. Yes, I answered confidently and immediately ran to put on my dress. I need any information. Even the smallest grains can help such an unfortunate traveler as me. And where can I get it? That's right, in crowded places. If I'm lucky, I'll overhear something from adults. Maybe I'll meet that god. When I got dressed, Dad picked me up and put me in the stroller, and we headed outside as a family. After all, reading about the village in manga is one thing, but actually visiting it is quite another. As we walked past various houses and shops, I noticed only Iruka and Mizuki. However, they were only students of the academy. I couldn't really find out anything, but in the conversation of passers-by I heard something about Uzumaki and a few words about their neighborhood. After a short walk along the streets that were already somewhat familiar to me, we went into a local cafe. Having found one charming place by the window, I began desperately asking to go there. I had a gorgeous view, passers-by flashed everywhere. If you try to find out something, then you can't miss a single opportunity. Mom and Dad ordered a cup of coffee for themselves, and I got freshly squeezed juice and ice cream. About 10 minutes later, this oversized Naruto came in. I didn't even notice him on the street. All eyes were fixed on the new visitor. The face was very similar to Naruto's face, but older, and there were no stripes. His hair wasn't a hedgehog, but neatly styled, and instead of practical shinobi combat sandals, he wore white shoes. The rest was hidden under a thick, white cloak. Hello, Mebuki, Kazashi and little Sakura, he bowed his head, and his velvety voice knocked the chair out from under me. No, he didn't sound like Naruto from canon at all. Ah, Naruto, good to see you. How are you? Dad asked, taking a sip from his mug. His serenity and eternal optimism always amazed me. Okay. He shrugged, you. While he was asking this, I looked at him again. In the stats, everything was unchanged, the same numbers, or rather the lack of them. A couple of minutes later, they brought him 2 coffees and a box of donuts. On one of the glasses there was a note, apparently from one of the waitresses. Yeah, 2, only Sakura acts up sometimes, answered the father. You're lying, Daddy, but you have to keep the conversation going. And Mom nods, the traitor. Having taken his order, Naruto God said goodbye to his parents and headed for the exit, winking at me one last time. Well, shall we go home? My mother asked me. Yes, I yawned for show. Nagato. The first meeting with Naruto was a big surprise for me. He completely disabled all my bodies, and Conan won with just one wave of his hand. The Rinnegan was burning in the winner's eyes, but I felt the power from them 100 times greater than mine. How did he achieve this? I thought this would be my end, but Naruto completely healed and increased my strength, and his words that it was just a trifle made me think. I reached the stone village in a day. I encountered shinobi squads on the way, but few were interested in the battered old man. I took off my disguise only when I approached the village. At the entrance, I was scanned by 2 sensors hiding underground, one of the Jonin attached a tracking seal. I didn't plan to take it off, otherwise I would be guaranteed an Anbu squad. The village was preparing for active combat. I reached the residence in about 20 minutes. The purpose of the visit? The shinobi on duty asked. Inform that the leader of the Rain village has arrived. He whispered something to the Anbu standing behind him and turned to me. Just a minute, come in. Thank you, I nodded and headed towards the office. Finding myself in front of the door, I knocked. And what brought the head of AIM here? The old man asked point blank, levitating with his back to me. I'm not here as the head of the village, I'm the new god. It's pompous, but what can you do? The old man laughed. A strong statement, how can you prove it? He reminds me of Hanzo. With my eyes. He turned around, I threw Henge out of my sight. Will you check? After. So why did you come here? Onoki asked with interest. He already sees me as an ally. Although, as a leader, I would also make attempts to recruit strong shinobi. I need a peace treaty with Konoha from you. No, he barked. Okay, attack, but I will take their side. It's unlikely that you'll leave here. The old man grunted and flew up to the ceiling. Jinten. Atomic fission technique. A cube began to form in his hands, increasing in size. No, I can't absorb this technique. If I do, it will destroy all my chakra channels. Shinra Tensai. I waved my hand, and the old man was pressed to the ceiling. After the upgrade, my techniques became 10 times more powerful. A few seconds later, Anbu appeared, but also ended up on the ceiling. Okay, I get it. The old man groaned. Watch out, Onoki, next time there will be no mercy. I turned around and left. Send a peace treaty to Konoha, and cooperation contracts to the Raincoats. Hi, the Anbu shouted and hobbled towards the exit. Yugao. Our outpost was the closest to the combat zone. The stone attacked every week and attacked with squads of seasoned Jonin. What could our Chunin and one old Jonin do against them? More or less, our squad held them back, but we are not all powerful. There were many reports of a squad of stone shinobi crossing the border, but most of them were just to tickle our nerves, but according to orders, we had to check everything. When Naruto showed up, we had just returned from another failure. Oh, how he blew us apart, I even got scared, and then he took me to the restored barracks and fed me, for which I was very grateful, because dry rations and pills were already boring. What made me happiest was that I would be returning to the village much earlier than expected. Now I would be able to ask Naruto more precisely about other worlds. As soon as he broke me off and left, I headed to my people. The old Jonin had heated the bathhouse, and the Chunins were carrying water. What did he say? Asked Arika, Mole. That we'll be going home soon, I replied. Hooray. Yumi, Fox, squealed. The bathhouse is ready, the Jonin reported. Ladies first. You'll wash your own things. Yumi snorted and, grabbing me by the arm, led me in the direction of the bathhouse. It didn't work, I heard a sigh. Commentary on a day in the life. Happy belated greetings to all. Divine War, beginning. Pathetic half-gods, how could you even have the nerve to do something like that? Shinigami growled. He stood in the middle of a large hall, furnished with various ancient vases. From them, the souls of the dead flew to the supreme god. Each of them individually is quite weak, although it has its own consciousness. But these small lights flying out of ancient and slightly ugly vessels become stronger, because they serve Shinigami. Those who worshipped and believed in their god, whoever he was, necessarily gained strength next to him. Therefore, something draws souls to gods and other spiritual beings. This is how armies appear. Divine armies. What is important here is not your wealth, what you had during life, but faith. The more the soul believes in its god, the more it relies on him, the more strength it gains next to him. The Shinigami army has always been famous for its strength and numbers. But not every god is ready to risk those who are ready to fall into oblivion for his sake. Your bones will turn to powder and scatter to the wind, your skin will line the entrance here, and everything else will be given to the guard dogs to eat. We'll see, old man. The man with red eyes pushed back another soul that tried to attack him. It was clear from the disturber of the peace that it was quite difficult for him. More and more lights were gathering around him, turning into brave samurai. Boy, you've gone too far. Thundered the god of death, calling more and more of his loyal warriors. No, we will soon destroy you, and then all the worlds will belong to us. Recognizing the inequality of forces, the intruder decided to retreat and, throwing back the attackers, disappeared into the portal. The supreme god stopped summoning souls. Despite the size of the army, it took too much of his strength. Having caught his breath, Shinigami headed towards his throne. Naruto, come to me quickly, God said and leaned back on his seat. Shinny's voice caught me halfway to Konoha. Sighing and adjusting my cloak, I headed off to meet pointing finger at the sky himself. As soon as I entered, I felt a huge amount of spiritual energy. Moreover, it was so much that the gods of the lower division could not approach the door to the throne room of the god of death. This could mean that Shinny was summoning souls. Was he fighting? As we approached the throne room, the amount of energy increased, therefore, it became much more difficult to walk. In the hall itself, Shinigami sat on his throne as usual. Shinny, get all the energy out of here, or I'll do it. Naruto. I think he was so lost in thought that he didn't notice me. You don't have enough strength to carry out that threat. The supreme god smirked slightly. The pressure stopped. Shinigami didn't like it when someone even slightly tried to refute the fact that the supreme god was the most powerful of all. Sit down, this conversation won't be easy. I already understood. I decided not to give in to him and a golden throne appeared behind me, and a cup of coffee in my hand. Showing off, he said with a grin. Yeah, I nodded and took a couple of sips of the invigorating drink. Remember our conversation? Shinny asked, to which I nodded. They have begun to act. The recruitment of neutral gods has begun. Gods? But that shouldn't be such a big problem. There aren't many of them, are there? Not quite. The gods you saw here are only a small part of the total number. There are about 30,000 gods in total. Old man, you're probably lying. Tell me, how many real gods are there in the world and how many of them are supreme? And how big is the trouble? It's unlikely that big shots like you will help the eyes. My interlocutor sighed sadly. Wait, isn't it because I ask so many stupid questions and the answers to them don't give me complete information? Damn, it's like I've returned to the academy, where I was known as an idiot in everything. To make it easier for you to understand, Naruto, I will return to the basics. I, Alona, Kodo Amatsukami and Kamui, we are all considered supreme gods and they are considered my sisters. In addition to the 4 of us, there are 100 more and they are also our brothers and sisters. Almost each of us has our own pantheons with their gods of the middle and small divisions, and not a single god living in their pantheon will be able to go to war against my brothers or sisters. But the rebels. At these words, Shinigami spat. They are alien to all prohibitions, but like any god and patron, they need nourishment, and for this they need a pantheon, so they are ready to get involved in any war. Wait, you're talking about? Don't interrupt, I'll tell you, and then you can ask your questions. I nodded and created another cup of coffee. There aren't many rebels, but they are all quite strong, on the level of Izanagi and Izanami. That's basically all for now. Now ask. Why don't the White Eyes attack other pantheons? They are exiles, and the only pantheon their little hands can reach is mine. But with you, I think we can defeat them, Shinny said quietly. But how can they recruit other gods? Any patron can call, but who will respond is another matter. Who are the patrons? It seems like I have been god for 2,000 years, but I know almost nothing about them. Weak little gods who live only at the expense of the pantheon. Without it, there will be no them. It's simple. They are more often used as messengers from the gods to people. I see, but that's not all. They recruited Sasuke. Shinny paused and looked at me. What? I jumped up. Sasuke? It can't be. But what did they give him? The chakra fruit. Yes, now it's Sasuke with the power of Kagaya from your home world. Okay, I'll deal with him later. I leaned back on the throne, returning my cold mind. So who opposes us? About 1,000 white-eyed, and 3 of them are very strong. Your friend Uchiha, 10 rebels and 3 Kuramas from different worlds. Harsh. Yes, we need the clown. We have to seal him before the war starts. Who knows what he can do? Shinigami fell silent, and then said, That's it. Quickly to me, Jashin, grab the clown. Let's go. Shinny told me and headed towards one of the doors. The hall we entered was covered with runes and some kind of writing. In the middle, above a huge opening, there was a cage hanging on golden chains, with hieroglyphs on each link. On the cage itself there were seals. There were 10 of them, apparently intended to fight the power of each god, who granted part of the power to the circus performer. A reinforced room, protection from all kinds of influences, the cage is indestructible, completely hermetically sealed. Seals and runes protect against any surveillance, so that not even a single hire will find it. Chains wrap the cage in a cocoon and lower it 666 meters underground. Before that, each seal is filled with energy. It will last for several million years. Then it is all filled with rune stones and covered with another layer of seals. Shinny told us while we waited for the others. Powerful, was the only thing I could say. A few minutes later, other gods began to appear. Kodo Amatsukami and Kamui appeared. True, their faces were hidden behind hoods. Shinny. The clown kicked as Jashin led him. Don't put me there, we're friends. It's your own fault, said Shinigami. And he helped Jashin put him in the cage. The cage slammed shut and the runes lit up. Stand in a circle and put your hands on the seals, ordered Shinny. For about 10 minutes we pumped in a lot of strength, but it was worth it. Then the sealing process began. When the last seal flared up, we exhaled. I can feel them, Kamui said. There are so many powerful sources. Follow me, Shinny shouted and we headed to the throne room. Once there, we stood in a row. The vessels of the god of death lit up, a portal appeared behind Amaterasu, the others began to adjust their artifacts. I'm the only one standing with a cup of coffee. The portal opened and before us appeared a multitude of white-eyed puppets, 3 foxes and 1 Uchiha next to a large man, on whose shoulder sat a skinny one, and behind them hovered another skinny one, but with a strange thing similar to a fishing rod. Let the battle for supremacy begin. The skinny one on the shoulder shouted and laughed. Uzumaki, now you will see my power, Uchiha shouted, and the Rinne Sharingan with 9 tomo lit up in his eyes. Commentary on Divine War, the beginning. Divine War, traitors. The battle will be hot. Otsutsuki's 10th army, puppets, rebels and the rest of the rabble, as Shinny called them, against his million-strong army and 2,000 golden guards of Amaterasu, 4 high gods and 7 simple gods, let's see what comes of it. The first to rush into battle were the puppets, and against them were the warriors of the goddess. A golden bow staff appeared in her hands, and Amaterasu rushed into the attack together with the guards. It looked impressive, especially when the puppets burned from the blow of the staff. Having finished my coffee, I also decided to warm up. From our side, only I and Amaterasu with the guards decided to join the battle. As soon as I rushed from the place, Sasuke jerked towards me. Well, it will be interesting. An exchange of a couple of blows, then a kick to the chest. Sasuke was disoriented for a couple of seconds, and my kick from above pressed him into the floor. Uchiha grabbed me by the ankles and dragged me underground, just like Kakashi did to him once. Finding myself in the ground, I felt a foot fall on my head and drive me in like a nail. Only a shock of hair stuck out. Having torn apart the floor and grabbed Uchiha by the chest, I flew up together with him. Having thrown him 40 meters, I created 20,000 clones and did what I had long dreamed of doing to Sasuke. With a cry of Uzumaki, the clones began to strike. Despite the fact that my opponent parried more than half of them, he, even with his eyes, did not calculate over 40,000 blows, but my eyes caught every blow and knocked out Tooth. As soon as he started to fall, I and the remaining clone delivered a simultaneous uppercut from both sides. I think Taijutsu is behind me, I chuckled, looking at the bloody mess called Sasuke. Uzumaki. He growled, stopping in a split second. Gudodama appeared behind him. I create a shield from Koton, strengthen it with a thin layer of Gudodama and an absorption seal. Sasuke's balls merged, and a katana appeared in his hands. Sasuke is a master in kenjutsu, even I admit it. Sasuke attacked first. I parried the blows with my shield or dodged. Without the Sharingan only samurai can resist him, and not all of them. Maybe I should create an army of steel samurai. I dodge and, intercepting the katana, break it, and while it is not restored, I send the Uchiha flying. Looking around, I notice that all the gods have entered the battle. Jashin, waving his scythe, chops the white-eyed like firewood. Amaterasu destroys the last remnants of the puppets. Susanoo helps nearby. Her guard has thinned out significantly. There are just over 200 left. Koto Amatsukami and Kamui are busy with the foxes and the skinny one with the fishing rod. Tsukuyomi helps there. Shinigami sends hordes of souls to the big guy and the remaining skinny one, who is covered by Otsutsuki. Izanami and Izanagi stand behind the god of death. The battle is getting hot. Sasuke came from behind. I throw him over my shoulder and shoot with a water pistol, but I hit one of Shinny's vessels. I'm done for. Sasuke ended up on one of the pedestals. A second later, a huge wall of flame flies at me. Sweden. Water wall. The wave of water exceeded the size of the wall and extinguished it. 6 perfect Susanoo were moving towards me. I create 2 golems and a Gudodam and jump on one of them. Now the planetary techniques will go into battle. The gods will survive, but the rest are not a fact. First, I create 3 planetary Rasenshuriken from Gudodam and send them to Susanoo. 6 reinforced arrows of Indra fly towards me. That's it, the end of the theater. Only the gods and Sasuke in his Susanoo will survive. The fight below stopped. Everyone stared at the 8 huge creatures and the gigantic size of the techniques. There were 3 seconds left before the collision of the techniques. The grin on the skinny one's face flew off. Collision. A colossal burst of energy and a bright flash illuminated so that I couldn't even see the tip of his nose. A minute later the glow stopped and I looked around. Susanoo was gone. Sasuke was lying there, barely breathing. The little one was out of breath. Although I'm no better, such a burst knocked enough shit out of me and now my chakra is like Sasuke's at the beginning of the battle. I dispel the golems and go down breathing heavily. But what I saw next discouraged me. Koto Amatsukami and Kamui are lying, pierced by strange white blades. Transparent liquid is oozing from the wounds. Is this the blood of gods? Amaterasu is also lying with exactly the same blade in his chest. Jashin is cutting down Izanami and Izanagi. Shinny is lying behind him. Tsukuyomi and Susanoo are approaching them, not in a friendly mood. Jashin grabs Shinny and looks sharply at me. I quickly appear next to him and a portal opens and we disappear. Hell. We found ourselves in a warm, endless cave. And this is hell. And where are the chains, the fire, the sinners? But the throne is there, standing on the bones. Jashin is lying unconscious. He had only enough energy to move once. Shinny cleared his throat, but did not rise. I fly up to him and raise my head. Shinny, how is that possible? Traitors, they will never end. Naruto, my time is coming. He coughed. No, what about me? How is Jashin, and Alona? In revenge? Many questions, but this is more from hopelessness, shock and pain. The old man was my second Jiraiya, only he didn't steal. Sanin's death really knocked me down, and now I'm losing another mentor. Tears involuntarily appeared in my eyes. Jashin will take my place, he has more experience in dealing with the dead. As soon as he takes my place, he will appoint a new governor here. The old man coughed again. Alona is already far away, I suspected traitors, but could not identify them. That's why I sent her away. You will take revenge, I am sure. Before leaving I will give you the ability to return souls from the other world. Shinny was already wheezing. Taking my hand, he passed a current of energy, and then an hourglass appeared in my hand. A gift from Alona. I smiled through tears. Pull yourself together, Naruto. Gods don't cry, and you can say you've risen to the level of the highest. Yes, good luck, Naruto. I hope we don't meet soon. Tell this to Jashin, he knows what to do. He put the ring in my hand and smiled for the last time and dispersed. In the place of the old man there remained only a tanto and a rosary. Without saying a word, I created a pack of cigarettes and a bottle of cognac. The first 6 pieces flew away, the tears already stopped flowing. I uncorked the bottle and drank half. Then 10 more cigarettes went, but most of them just smoldered. Having finished the bottle, I noticed that Jashin has already recovered. Without saying a word, he sat down next to me. Here, I hand him the pack, he obediently takes it and lights a cigarette. Then I hand him the ring, tanto and rosary. Now you are the new god of death. The eyes of the newly baked one widen, but he obediently accepts them. Tell me what happened. I hand him the bottle. After everyone stared at you, Tsukuyomi and the others pierced them with the daggers of death. It is the only thing that can kill a god. After that, his soul goes to infinity. He took a sip from the bottle. Since I was closest to Shinigami, noticed that both Izanami and Izanagi pierced him, then I drew my dagger and Shinigami's dagger, and then killed the traitors. You already know the rest. But what prevents them from using them again? There for one time. Jashin then sucked on the bottle. Now I need to regain my strength. How does time flow here compared to my world? Jashin showed one finger, then 10 years. He nodded. So one day here is 10 years there. Okay, I'll leave Jashin alone, I need a year to restore all the supplies. Jashin, will they be able to find you? No, Shinigami is the only one who appears here. I'll be back in half an hour. As soon as I recover, we'll destroy the rebels. Agreed. I extended my hand to him. Death to the rebels. He shrugged back. I nodded and disappeared. Palace of the God of Death. Damn Jashin, without the artifacts and the old man we can't unseal the god show, and the throne won't accept me. Susanoo was angry. Are Izanagi and Izanami alive? Bloody mess. Jashin did his best. Tsukuyomi sighed. Now we are definitely finished. We have lost the army. Sasuke is not long for this world. His eyes are sealed. The only thing we got is Shinigami's bony ass. Well, yes, they will return, and if Naruto restores his supplies, then they will have an army. Susanoo tried to sit on the throne, but could not. The path to hell is closed to us. Naruto's world. Yes, he certainly won't expect it. But do you think Shinigami left him without gifts? Susanoo asked, kicking the throne. Of course not. The old man was very powerful and his gifts were appropriate. We need support. Maybe I can help. The surviving Otsutsuki was moving towards them, holding 3 red fruits. Divine War. The end. I woke up with a dry mouth. Opening my eyes, I started to turn my head. On the nightstand was a bottle of wine with 2 glasses, the remains of fruit and an Anbu mask. I listened to my feelings. Naked Yugao was pressing herself hard against me, and I had no doubt that it was her. Pressing the girl to me, I buried my nose in her luxurious hair. She, throwing her graceful leg over me, pressed herself even tighter and began to snore peacefully. Having calmed my hormones, I thought about water, and immediately life-giving moisture appeared in my mouth. I felt them just as I was about to fall asleep. I pulled myself out of their embrace and threw on my cloak. I'll put the rest on along the way. The girl woke up, but I quickly put her to sleep. She didn't need to know. Minato obviously already knew and was rushing there, and there was Nagato, but they were smart boys and probably wouldn't go without me. Minato-sama, a huge surge of energy has been detected. 15 kilometers from Konoha. The Anbu said to the Hokage who had appeared in the office. Chakra. No, our sensors are seeing this for the first time. Is Naruto in the village? He asked, preparing to teleport. His chakra is gone. Okay, Fugaku and Hiashi there, as well as 2 Anbu squads. The Hokage ordered and disappeared. Nagato, Conan said excitedly. I felt it, Uzumaki informed her, jumping off one of the pipes. He rarely slept and only when his body demanded it. Stay here, I'll be back soon. He hugged her and disappeared in a flash. I hope so, she replied into the void. It's beautiful here, Tsukuyomi said, looking around the majestic forest created by Hashirama. Don't get distracted, Naruto is very strong even in his current state, Susanoo said irritably. Unlike the goddess, he didn't like the forest at all, it even irritated him. He's here, Otsutsuki said, pointing a pale finger forward. Naruto's eyes were glowing with Rinnegan, and the Gudodama was levitating behind him, and the energy emanating from it was pressing on all three of them. He seems angry, Tsukuyomi said uncertainly, moving behind God. Oh, come on, and you thought he would come out to greet you with gingerbread? Susanoo quipped, trying to hide the fear that was creeping up on him. He felt a similar energy from Shinigami when he was angry. Well, kids, shall we play? Naruto grinned, which made him look even more like the god of death. Who can I kill here? Susanoo. He has absolute defense, I can't break through it with my current powers, I don't know his special abilities, except for the standard set. But he's afraid, and that's the main thing. Tsukuyomi. Sucks out energy, can cast very scary genjutsu, but also send the world there, basically that's all, and well, the standard is like a rebel, he's more afraid of me than that same Susanoo, a good girl, but he'll still die. Otsutsuki. The most cowardly, he hopes for the fruit of chakra, well. Naruto. The goddess screamed and rushed towards me. I stood up, but she fell at my feet. It's all Susanoo and those bastards. She pointed at the white-eyed one, who grimaced and looked at her with disdain. I didn't want to, they made me. She smeared snot and tears across her face. I'm ready to become your concubine, I'm ready to fall at your feet, just don't kill me. She started crying really badly. Watching the goddess's humiliation brought me no pleasure. A pathetic creature, unworthy of life. Pushing her away, I stood with my foot on her throat. She will die, or not, but the sensations will not be pleasant. Creature. I pressed a little harder. Tsukuyomi began to wheeze. Well, will you help your friend out? I turned to the rebel, he only shook his head. See, I leaned towards the goddess. We killed together, but now we die separately. Isn't it ironic? Why do you need this? I asked, removing my foot from her throat. We wanted power. Why? Do you even know how much responsibility Shinny had? I turned to all three. Minato appeared then, and Nagato next to him. Stay there. Don't come any closer. They nodded and retreated. He was ferrying souls, watching the balance, you idiots. You would have screwed everything up. Susanoo's eyes flashed with despair, the white-eyed one looked away, Tsukuyomi was crying. What would you have done to me? I asked more calmly. Seal it, she croaked. Like back then with Kagaya. She nodded. So it wasn't her sons who sealed her, but a pair of unlucky rebels. One less mystery, but now a logical question arises. If she is sealed, is there a threat from her in the alternative? Although if I prevented her from eating the fruit, then the goddess is no more. Okay, this is all tedious, but I need to check everything thoroughly. As soon as I finish here, I will walk through the worlds. I broke the goddess's neck, but something was wrong. I noticed a weak, small flame fluttering out of Tsukuyomi's mouth, the soul. My eyes popped out of my head, this is what Shinny meant when he gave me the ability. The flame darted towards me and disappeared, and then a strange pendant appeared on my neck. Twisting it in my hand, I noticed a miniature copy of Tsukuyomi, which was darting around in it. Now you. I pointed my finger at Susanoo. But in response, he wrapped himself in armor. The Totsuka sword and the Yata mirror appeared in his right hand. How will Itachi end up with them? Or are they the true artifacts, and the older brother of my sworn childhood friend just has a weaker version? The reinforcements are not alive or dead, of course. If I were Minato and the others, I would also be shocked. Susanoo is about 20 meters high. I'll do my best to kill you. He shouted. You're hoping for art. Well. I create a golem, strengthening it with natural chakra, then apply armor similar to Susanoo. I struck first, but he parried it. I'll have to use a sword too. The blades clashed. A wave of energy swept away a row of trees. Minato and the others covered themselves with barriers in time, I wasn't worried about them. But the white-eyed one ate the fruits, all three at once, poor thing, he'll be torn apart. Having prepared to repel his attack, I returned to God. The blades clashed again, the shock wave tore out trees, the reinforcements, barrier sagged, but they quickly restored it. Kaden. All-consuming flame. A huge wall of fire burst out of the golem's mouth, and I dispersed the gathering fire with a futon. The temperature was colossal. Otsutsuki, confidently eating the last fruit, got off with a severe burn. The god's armor melted in several places, but did not disappear. The mirror absorbed 90% of the equipment. The reinforcements took cover behind a stone wall and added a couple of barriers. Give up. Damn, my chakra is getting smaller, and there's still Otsutsuki. Shut up. Susano shouted and his armor returned to its original state. Just as I was about to start the battle, I felt a white-eyed man rushing towards me. I create a clone and send it to distract the latter, and also pass it on to the reinforcements to deal with him. Nagato should hold out, and there is also Minato and 2 dojutsu carriers. I do not perceive the rest of the crowd as a serious opponent for the white-eyed man. Having made sure that nothing will fly into my back, I penetrated the head of the god, who was distracted by the battle of an ally. Now the battle will take place on a lava mountain. This was the inner world of God. He sat in a steel box, surrounded by a moat of magma. Come out, you miserable creature, I shouted. So I go out, and then what? His voice echoed. I'll kill you and go back to sleep. Everything is so simple for you, he chuckled. Just like you, have you even thought about the consequences? I sat down on the nearest stone. Well. Okay, let's picture it. Did you kill everyone who would have taken the place of Shinigami? And Jashin? I am the place of Shinigami, Tsukuyomi Jashin, he continued to broadcast from the box. Do you even know their duties? To transport souls and sort them. Yeah, you understand that every soul has its own thoughts, its own fears, its own will. Shinigami suppressed all of this, and then decided who for reincarnation, who to Jashin, and who to Jodo. I would suppress them, he objected, but I did so confusion in his mind. You can't suppress your emotions. And when there are millions of them, you'll go crazy. I sighed. Get out and die like a worthy opponent, or I'll destroy the pathetic coward. What are you going to do with me? He asked, climbing out of the box. I'll give you a choice, either death and infinity, or a slave like Tsukuyomi. Death, he responded coldly and was pierced at that very moment. I found myself on the same golem again. The enemy's armor began to disappear, and he himself began to sink to the ground. As soon as Susano's invincible armor disappeared, I dispelled the golem. Phew, I'm tired, my chakra is like Kurama's, for me it's like chakra exhaustion for a genin. Bad, but not fatal. Approaching him, I bent down and prepared my dagger. Now I understand everything, he said hoarsely. I'm sorry. Apologize to Shinigami. Yes, he stared at the night sky, coming soon, goodbye Naruto. As soon as he finished speaking, I slit his throat. But instead of flying to me, she flew up. The backup had already finished off the enemy, but they looked bad. Minato was covered in cuts, almost no chakra, a broken leg, nothing fatal. Nagato looked better. No serious injuries, but like Minato, he had little chakra. The clan heads were generally cucumbers, as were the Anbu extras. Having poured chakra into them, and without explaining anything, I disappeared. Commentary on Divine War, the end. Looking for beta, mine disappeared. Until I find it I won't post the sequel. Following the trail of the ancestor. Somewhere between worlds. I stood at the crossroads of millions of roads, each leading to one of the portals. I had already searched hundreds of worlds, Kagaya was also sealed there, and Zetsu was nowhere to be found, and it seemed that he did not exist at all. Now I had to choose to explore further or go back. After thinking a little more and taking a sip of coffee, I stepped into another portal. Konoha. 2 women with huge bellies were walking along the quiet streets of Konoha. One had fiery red hair and blue eyes, the other a brunette with tar-black eyes. Both were dressed in loose sarafans, with simple flip-flops on their feet and piles of bags in their hands. Oh, Kushina sighed, it's so hard. This is only your second, I'll have my third. Uchiha grinned and gently stroked her belly. How's Elder? He's been disappearing somewhere for half a year already. Uzumaki sighed and sat down on the nearest bench. He's independent, he decides everything himself. What did you want, friend? Uchiha asked, sitting down next to him. He's 2,000 years old, he knocked out Kami, he has such techniques. Hashirama is a puppy compared to him. Yes, but he is still my son, even if he is from another world, Uzumaki roared. Ooh, let's go give you some herbal tea. Fugaku brought it for me from Kusa. Squeaked Kushina and trudged after her friend. Somewhere in one of the worlds. A scorched world, a depressing sight. The aftermath of the Fourth Shinobi World War. There are no more countries. No shinobi, nothing at all, just a group of survivors. In addition to searching for traces of Kagaya, I destroy everything related to the gods, and there are many things related to them. In each world, I destroyed everything. Techniques, artifacts, temples, all followers. There are no more gods, there is only the pantheon and me with Jashin. In this world, everything was done for me, but Uzumaki Island is no small thing. Weak barriers, simple traps, nothing more. Apparently, the only thing they have left to fear is animals. Out of 1,000,000 people, only 1,000 are left alive, half of whom are children and old people. As soon as I passed the first barrier, I was surrounded by local aborigines. Beards, torn clothes and bouquets of diseases. Who are you? I somehow made out the sounds. I didn't answer, I just killed. This world is dead, and no one should remain alive. Having passed the last barrier, I entered the village. Having examined what was left of the shinobi world, I stepped back, removed all protection from the island. Having flown in, I once again examined the ruins and the hiding people. Shinra Tensai. A single pop and the island disappeared under the water. There is nothing more to do here. I opened a portal and disappeared into it. Somewhere between worlds. 140 years, what is that for God? Crumbs. One world left and I can go home. I haven't been there for almost a century and a half. And for the rest, only a year and a half. Opening the portal, I stepped into it. Somewhere in the last world. I found myself near Konoha, but different from mine. High buildings towered over the village, not like those in AIM. A few minutes later, I found myself at the gate. Still a checkpoint, but there were no Anbu in the hidden cavities of the walls. The purpose of your visit to the village? One of the gatekeepers asked lazily. The other was sound asleep. Could it be that Izumo and Katetsu were related? I'm a traveler, exploring the world. I said the first thing that came to mind. Okay, I'll write it down now and you can go in. He still lazily took out the card and asked. First and last name. Ocarino Ikira. I took the name of the former head of Uzumaki and the abbreviation for Ichiraku. Here, now go to the residence, there, the red building. He waved his hand and sat back down. And I headed to the Hokage. The village was blooming and smelling. New buildings, new shinobi uniforms, everything new. A second later I looked at the Hokage mountain. Yeah, baby, I'm the Hokage, Yuahu. What also surprised me was the huge machine driving along strange paths. Looking around, I started to think how old I was here. More like 30, give or take 2 years. The residence hadn't changed from the outside, but it was completely different inside. I went up to the counter and said hello, asked how to get to the Hokage, and showed my pass. Here, she handed me the card back. Go up to the 6th floor and wait. Thank you. I nodded and headed towards the stairs. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed a group of genin with a mentor. It was an easy mission, I didn't even break a sweat. A blonde boy of about 13 said, throwing his hands behind his head. Next to him was a girl from Uchiha, who looked at him with irritation. An exact copy of Sasuke, even her gaze. And a smiling pale boy with snake-like features. Orochimaru had a child, Konohamaru has changed, he has become a meeting, no longer the same slacker, but there are still childish sparkles in his eyes. Boruto, as usual you're taking all the glory for yourself, Uchiha snorted. No, he waved it off and looked at me. Who is this strange guy? He asked Sarutobi. Now the Jonin's gaze fell on me, and the others too. This doesn't concern us, let's go hand over the mission. He led the team to the counter, and I headed to the Hokage. Having climbed to the indicated floor, I found the office and knocked. Behind the door I heard permission to enter. As soon as I entered, the door slammed shut, Shikamaru wrapped me in fetters, and the Hokage erected a barrier. Amateur, ruined the revival of the clan, and screwed up the techniques. Who are you? He asked sharply. Hermit. You're lying. He narrowed his eyes. There can't be so much chakra in a regular shinobi. You have 3 of me in reserve, not to mention 1,000 limiters. I figured it out, I raised my hands. Both of their eyes widened, and Shikamaru even dropped to one knee. He just drained me, he groaned and slid down the wall. Now let's talk. I set up a more powerful barrier. Yes, I am very strong, I am God. It's pathetic, but what can you do? I don't need the second Kagaya, he said coldly and entered Rakudo mode. Calm down. I removed 5 limiters. The Hokage sucked in air, but didn't fall. You understand that I'm stronger. No harm in trying, he said. Laska, sound the alarm, everyone in the shelter. Even the shinobi, he said imperiously. Yugao disappeared into the shunin, taking Shikamaru. The sirens went off. We have 20 minutes. I will do no harm. I barked. I don't care. We fought with the gods and I don't trust them anymore. He's right, they were fighting against the Jubi, Kagaya and 2 Jinchuriki of the 10 Tails. He has a reason not to trust me. What should I do to make you believe? It's okay, I don't have anything to do with gods. He snapped, and a minute later Sasuke appeared. Naruto, are you in trouble again? Uchiha asked mockingly. We have a second Kagaya here, a male version. He nodded at me. Youngsters, I'm 100 times stronger than their mother with a high ego. A fight is inevitable, so I'll be on equal terms with them. No problem, we managed once, and the second time too, Uchiha said arrogantly. Is everyone in the shelter? Yes, Yugao reported. Anbu will not interfere and it is better to hide in the barracks, the Hokage said. Hi. So, are you ready? Sasuke took off his cloak, Naruto his cape, I want the same one only in gold. Just like the good old days. Uzumaki replied with a smile. Let's go. The blows of both missed. Grabbing them by the legs, I smashed them through the wall onto the street. Flying out, I looked around. As if they had died out, even the Iron Colossus had stopped. 2 shinobi flew up against me. The game had begun. Commentary on the trail of the progenitor. For me, Bori's world is not separate. 2 Uzumaki, not counting the Uchiha. Guys, let's make peace. I asked hopefully. I already told you, we have no dealings with the gods. Uzumaki answered harshly. Naruto, check his speed. Uchiha said and activated Mangekyo in one eye and Rinnegan in the other. I didn't stay in dead either and removed the illusion from my eyes. It's bad, I don't want to admit it, his eyes are stronger than Rakudo's eyes. We'll check now, Uzumaki replied and launched a Gudodama. I dodged it, but I missed the blow to the jaw. I'm faster. Having put my jaw back in place, I shook my head. Well, that's all small fry, you'll get it in the ass, and even your mother will seem like a rabbit, white and fluffy. It hurts so much. Sasuke, we seem to have made him angry. I can see without you. You've pissed me off. A click and both of them have their chakras at the bottom. I am a god, a researcher, a scientist, to some extent. I don't consider myself a shinobi. I've gotten out of the habit of swinging my fists, I have limitless possibilities, I'm the strongest in the pantheon, Jashin won't gain the power of Shinny anytime soon. And I, such an all-powerful person, was hit by a teenager. Unthinkable. The 2 strongest shinobi were breathing heavily. But they continued to float on the platforms made of Gudodama. I can fight you, but the destruction will be colossal. I looked at the demigods with superiority. Or you can help me and everyone will get a reward. Don't kill me with a look, it won't work. I roared. Okay, let's listen, Uchiha exhaled. You cleanse all temples and sects where any gods are worshipped. Do not touch people. Why? Uzumaki shouted. Because there are no more gods. It is you who consider Rakudo a god, there he was not even considered a patron. That's all. Do you agree? Yes. As a reward, I want to talk to my parents. Uchiha. Me too. And this is already a blonde. With your parents? I asked. And our children should see them, Uchiha added. Acceptable. At the gates in a week. I answered and headed to Uzumaki Island. Sasuke's portals and Naruto's speed are an explosive mixture. Konoha. Yugao was quietly walking through a quiet park, carefully stroking her belly. Yes, our god dropped by the house, forgive me for missing that. 9th month and in a couple of weeks she would already be giving birth. Getting pregnant is a gift for a shinobi. Only 100 shinobi children are born per year. Yugao, as an Anbu, had access to this information. Most shinobi either do not return from missions or do not want to start a relationship because of the first. And she was lucky, and now she was wondering how strong their baby would be. She was distracted from her thoughts by a call. Yugao. The Hokage's wife waved her hand with a stroller and a small boy holding her by the hem of her sarafan. Kushina-san, she smiled warmly and headed towards them. Hello Naruto. Hello, the blonde smiled. Despite not being 3 years old yet, he was already speaking coherently. Although shinobi children develop quickly with the right approach. How are you feeling? Uzumaki asked. Everything is good, how is Mito? Eats a lot, sleeps soundly, Uzumaki joked. That's good, I wish Naru would come back soon. I have to make it before the birth, the red-haired girl hugged the girl. I hope so, Azuki muttered, she missed him very much. Let's go for a walk, the former Anbu nodded. Uzumaki Island. Again the site of a ruined village. Again forgotten techniques resting under hundreds of barriers, traps. Again the island hid under the thickness of sea water. The Uzumaki knew too many techniques to interact with the gods. Too many people died for them. Now you are forgotten by people, no one will disturb you, he said quietly into the void. Thank you, I heard. A week later, I met the demigods at the gate. How did it go? I asked point blank. Done, Sasuke answered lazily. Okay, here's the advance. I nodded and threw scrolls to both of them. You get Sasuke for your eyes, and you get the barrier amateur. I glanced at the blondie. He was embarrassed under my gaze. Our clan's techniques. I won't give you the techniques for interacting with the gods. You know the reasons. He nodded. We'll meet at Naruto's house tonight. Why me? Because Sasuke's apartment isn't that big. I notice Uchiha's mocking look out of the corner of my eye. See you later. I winked and disappeared. I found myself on the roof of one of the skyscrapers. I took out a cigarette and lit it. Tomorrow I'll finally be home. I've had enough of these worlds. Enough for 10 years. Although it was fun, I didn't like killing people. And not all the worlds were whole. The main thing is that Kagaya and the overgrown cactus are gone. Having shaken myself off, I decided to take a walk around the village. Progress had stepped forward a long way here. Everything looked modern. Here and there were large stores, not stalls like ours. Tall buildings, huge screens on which the news was thundering and much more. Passing by one of the cafes I noticed a group of genins. Strengthening my hearing I sat down on a bench with my back to the building. My father spent 3 days in bed. But he's handsome. I saw him when we were returning from the mission. He has eyes like Sasuke-san. Rather, my father has eyes like his. They're listening to us. Wow, that's a powerful sensor. Okay, let's disappear. The time before dinner flew by quickly and here I am standing at the door. The door was opened for me by a smiling Naruto, behind him stood Sasuke leaning against the wall. Hello. Come in, said the owner and, together with Sasuke, headed deeper into the house. Taking off my shoes and coat, I went into the kitchen, which was combined with the living room. Hinata and Sakura were bustling around the tables, and a girl of about 8 was running behind them. Hi all. Hello, the girl smiled at me. Hello, both girls answered, this is Hima. Hinata smiled warmly at her daughter. Hima, go call your father and brother. Okay. The girl nodded and left the kitchen. The girls returned to serving, and I continued my inspection. Noticing the album, I asked. Can I have a look? Of course, Hyuga smiled. Thank you, he nodded and began to leaf through the album. There are many photos, but the most important ones take up a whole sheet. Naruto's Hokage Day, then birthdays, entering the academy, a couple of photos with the company. There is even a photo of Kushina and Minato, as well as Neji. After looking at it for another minute, I put it back in place. By this time, everyone else had appeared. Hello, said the children. Hello, I create a teddy bear for Haim. Here you go. The girl's eyes lit up with joy. But the rest, well, except for the demigods, were looking for jaws on the floor. Thank you. Maybe we should eat already? Naruto asked. Hinata, having recovered from her shock, invited him to the table. After eating we moved to the living room. Now my reward for helping. Everyone tensed up, Hinata activated Byakugan. Having summoned souls, I created bodies for them. I'll tell you right away that you have no more than 6 hours. Of course, I can resurrect them, but why? Everyone nodded in agreement. As soon as I snapped my fingers, the bodies came to life. What are we doing here? It was I who summoned you, I replied. You will return back 6 hours later. Now allow me to take my leave. Thank you, the 4 souls nodded. Thank you. This is already Naruto and Sasuke. You're welcome. I'll drop by again. I winked at everyone and opened a portal. Goodbye, I heard before the portal closed. Somewhere in the fire country. Orochimaru was sitting in one of the shelters. Tomorrow he would receive the child of God. And there was no one who could stop him. Orochimaru-sama, the troops are ready. Great, send them to the village, I'll arrive at dawn. As you command, Kabuto bowed and left. Soon, Orochimaru grinned and licked his lips. The snake attacks. Yuhiko sipped the coffee her partner had brewed before he went to sleep. It was 5 in the morning and the shift was due to arrive soon. Monitoring the signal barriers was one of her squad's tasks. In general, the squad Yuhiko served in dealt with the village's security systems and rarely participated in force operations. Is everything quiet? Yuhiko winced. Sorry, I didn't mean to scare you. Yes, she answered and turned to her interlocutor. She recognized him immediately. A mask on half his face, one eye closed, the other expressing fatigue. Kakashi Hatake, her immediate commander. Be on guard, I have a bad feeling about this. Hatake sighed. They've also sent half the Anbu to guard you. Naruto-san should have returned already. He'll come back, where else would he go? He smiled with his eye. But then one of the barriers worked. Sound the alarm, Taicho will stay with you. Kakashi said in a tired voice and disappeared. The girl had already pressed the button when her partner ran out of the room and stood near the door. Many people want to get Naruto Dono's child. The Anbu said with hidden fear. She was afraid for her friend and for her future godson. 10 kilometers from the village. The Anbu patrol squad was the first to enter the battle when they spotted a squad of 30 shinobi. 8 elite fighters against 30 chunin, the censor said. And the squad commander was mentally glad that the Hokage had reinforced the border troops, as I knew. Although, Naruto Dono's son is too tasty a morsel. The commander thought as he parried another kunai. Use area techniques, take a prisoner if possible, the commander shouted, killing another enemy. Hi, everyone responded and increased the pressure. Village center. Even at night, the center was bustling with life, people were walking here and there, various signs were burning, the inviting voices of sellers and the bass voices of tipsy shinobi could be heard. The alarm sent everyone into a stupor, but when the Anbu and some of the Jonin showed up, people realized that an attack had occurred, although they didn't know why. Everyone line up and follow us. The Anbu in the white cloak said in a commanding voice. We will carry out the evacuation, you check everything and close everything you can. The commander had already said this to one of the Jonin. He nodded and the shinobi spread out in the center. Follow me. The Anbu commander shouted and walked forward. 2 fighters jumped onto the roofs, 3 more covered the crowd from behind. While the people were moving, he noticed the same chains and the same Anbu. The people were moving towards the Hokage mountain. On the mountain, wherever possible, Anbu stood mixed with Jonin, 3 chunin stood near the entrance and let 10 to 15 people through. No crowding, take turns. One of the chunin said. Then there was a flash, the Hokage appeared next to one of the Anbu. That's it, he asked the fighter. All those who were on the streets, the rest will arrive in about 30 minutes. Anbu estimated, the Hokage nodded and thought, it reminds me of Kushina's birth. You gave us some work, Naruto. Minato grinned and disappeared in a flash. Somewhere not far from Konoha. Your task is to establish this. Sannin pointed to the 4 scrolls in front of him. At the points marked on the map. Then hold them until the morning. As you command, Orochimaru-sama, the 4 shinobi replied. Don't let me down, or I'll use you for your organs. Orochimaru licked his lips, the 4 shuddered. Run away. The shinobi grabbed the scrolls and disappeared. The main thing is to make it in time. The snake sighed and disappeared underground. Village center. Orochimaru. Why can't I move? Where is everyone? I shouted into the void. I am amazed at your strength. The snake clapped and appeared in front of me. You felt me under the concealing seals. Don't forget yourself. I looked at the snake with disdain. I admit, I'm afraid of you, but the records from the Uzukage's personal library will keep you in this state until the morning. The snake licked his lips. I spent half my life opening the Uzukage's personal library, changed hundreds of bodies, almost went to Shinigami 3 times. I don't give a damn. Just dare to touch my child. I will erase you from the universe, I will personally torture you in hell, believe me I have such an opportunity. I shouted. Perhaps, but it won't be today. Goodbye, Naruto-kun. The Sannin hissed and scattered into snakes. Damn snake. What kind of monster was Uzukage, that he was even able to restrain God? Okay, I'll deal with this island later. I need to find the one who powers the seals. Oh, there's an Anbu scurrying around. Oh, Orochi, you don't even know half of my strength. Having located the fighter's location, I shouted. Fighter, come to me quickly. Naruto Dono, what are you doing here? Shut up and listen. Tell the Hokage that Orochimaru wants to attack the shelter. He nodded. Then tell Kakashi to search the village around, kill the enemy on sight. Hi. He nodded and disappeared. That's why I love Anbu, they never ask too much and listen right away. It's okay, Snake, we'll play some more. Damn, my nose is itching. Hokage's office. Minato sat back in his chair. Once the civilians were in the hideout, Minato sent most of the Anbu and shinobi to patrol the area. The rest to Yugao, since Orochimaru was supposed to show up there. Naruto was out of the game right now, at least until Kakashi found the seals. Hokage-sama, one of the remaining shinobi flew in. The city substation has been destroyed, the backup one will be operational in an hour. How long can people last without ventilation? The plan was for 3 hours, the shinobi sighed. About 50 years ago. Now it's about 30 minutes. Badly. Maybe we should involve Okiji and Yukiji. Exactly. Minato was inspired. In 10 minutes at the ventilation shafts. Hi. 10 minutes later, 5 shinobi were standing at the ventilation shafts. The Tsukuchi brothers, 2 Anbu from the Hokage's personal guard, and the shinobi who reported about the substation. Guys, don't let us down, there are 200,000 people there. There's about 15 minutes of air. You're offending me, said one of the brothers. Let's go, asked the second one, and the first one nodded. Futon. A great rush. A stream of fresh air rushed into the mines. You know, Yamamoto-san, this technique worked for us for the first time. The brothers smiled. There wasn't even a light breeze before. I'll have you court-martialed. The shinobi shouted, more for show than anything else. A snort was heard from the Anbu. Somewhere behind the wall. Kakashi moved quickly. His main task was to free Naruto Dono, the rest later. The first enemy was found immediately. It was some kind of mutant demon, and no matter in what order, he looked disgusting. Orochimaru-sama gave me strength. He was cut off from finishing by the hand that pierced his heart. You talk too much, Kakashi said, and destroyed the scroll. Then a short phrase appeared in his head. Thank you, I almost died. Kakashi smiled and moved on. So the fat guy couldn't handle it, the mutant girl sighed. Kakashi grimaced. Orochimaru-sama wasted his strength on him. Oh well, no one can resist my genjutsu. Demonic flute. Phantom shackles of sound. The mutant played a melody and Kakashi began to melt. Peef. These Anbu are so will, she didn't have time to finish. Abomination. Anbu destroyed another scroll. Then he met a mutant spider. Since Kakashi was very afraid of spiders, he simply burned the ghoul without even letting him speak. So, it means I'm alone. Not one brother, together. I'll bury you together. Kakashi decided to finish everything quickly and quickly punched both brothers in the chest and, having destroyed the scroll, he retired to the grass. Thus, the personal guard of the great Sannin Orochimaru ceased to exist, and along with them, the technique that restrained the very evil god. Welcome to hell. From the third person. A monstrous energy emanated from him. The stone beneath his feet crumbled, vegetation withered, and any living creature suffered in agony. He had never released this energy without a reason before, but when the life of your child was threatened. There was a little more than a kilometer left to the shelter when hundreds, if not thousands of shinobi appeared in front of Naruto. True, the view was unnatural. God shuddered, as he felt the souls and the pain they were experiencing. The crowd rushed to attack, throwing iron, technicians, wielding swords and simply throwing themselves into hand-to-hand combat. What he dodged, what he destroyed, but sent every soul to Johto. The hordes kept coming. Where did you get so much material? The blonde thought, sending another soul to rebirth. Jashin, what are you doing there anyway? The blonde shouted. I have enough other problems here. Finish with the kite and come to me. My girl is giving birth, my people are dying. Okay, just don't delay and come to me. You have amazing support. The army stopped, then lights started flying out of each one. Mountains of corpses remained on the battlefield. Kaden. Great fire incinerator. Having formed a seal, the blonde breathed out a huge wall of flame. The fire consumed everything in a matter of minutes. The blonde rushed further, and where the scorched earth had been, new grass grew, the trees returned to their original state. Shelter. Ashura and Yuri, Yugao exhaled. Excellent names. Naruto Dono will be, the senior medic Nin didn't have time to finish. Agreed, but Naruto-kun is busy right now. Orochimaru came out of the shadows. His appearance left much to be desired. His skin was hanging in pieces, his clothes were torn, one arm was dangling and he had a lot of wounds. But the snake didn't seem to notice. Twins. I was counting on one, well, a backup option won't hurt. The snake licked his lips, it looked disgusting. The Anbu gave me a good beating, but who are they and who am I? You're a corpse. Naruto. Everything is fine, my dear, it's time for you and the children. The blonde snapped his fingers and he and the snake remained in the room. Let's go, snake. A strange chain wrapped around Orochimaru. Then a portal opened and both disappeared into it. Hell. So. The blonde sat down on the throne and crossed his legs. An impressive scroll appeared in his hands. What do we have here? The scroll unrolled and Naruto began reading. Orochimaru was chained to the wall, his arms and legs pierced with stakes, his mouth gagged, and an infinite number of senbon hanging in front of him. Murders, inhumane experiments, kidnapping and holding people hostage and blah blah. The blonde threw away the scroll. You're a bastard, you decided to play with death and you lost. One senbon pierced the body. You've read about hell, right? The snake nodded against his will. Great, then let's make your schedule. The blonde returned to the throne. Fear. Sticky, burning fear flowed down his back. For the second time in his life, the snake experienced fear. Although the main fear was sitting opposite and scribbling something on parchment. Orochimaru's consciousness was leaving him. Orochi, what are you doing, little one, wanting to sleep? You can't, you still have 1,001 torments. Naruto grinned. First, the red-hot rods. Then a bath of sulfuric acid, stretching of the limbs, poking with pitchforks, then luncheon again. Days off Monday and Wednesday. There you will communicate with souls. 3,841. That's how much you have killed in half a century. The sentence is 10,000 years. The blonde snapped his fingers. The portal opened and the shackles flew off Orochimaru. And I have to go, to fix your mistakes, and I need to see the children. Good luck, see you in 10,000 years. The blonde stepped into the portal. A heartbreaking scream reached Naruto. Welcome to hell, creature. The portal closed. Hokage's office. How many? 120 Anbu, 544 Shinobi. There were no casualties among civilians or genin. Thank you Yakito, you're free to go. As soon as the shinobi left, Minato leaned back in his chair and tiredly rubbed the bridge of his nose. His hand automatically reached for a small bottle of sake. But the Hokage pulled his hand away. 3 more reports, and then we can remember. Minato, don't be sad, I have twins. Snakes for re-education. Naruto put down 2 bottles of cognac. The village is intact, and I will resurrect the people. But I'm in charge of everything now, and not everyone is destined to die today. So everything is fine. Listen to the reports, call Jiraiya and wait for me. I'll be there in about 40 minutes. The blonde snapped his fingers and disappeared. Hokage-sama. I know, call Jiraiya to me and everyone can rest. The alarm is lifted. Hi. The joyful shinobi ran away, and Minato thought, it's time for you to build a monument to Naruto. The Hokage smiled and turned to the window. The village was coming to life. Uzumaki House. Naruto walked up the stairs quietly. Snoring could be heard from the bedroom. He quietly opened the door and looked around the room. His 3 greatest treasures were sleeping peacefully. 2 of them had chakra channels running to their eyes. Naruto sent a clone and lay down next to them. Not a clone, Yugao asked quietly. No, congratulations, our children have Rakudo's eyes. Okay, now let's go to sleep, Yugao said, snoring. Yeah, it won't hurt. The blonde stretched and the blanket covered the bed. He hadn't slept for a long time, time to catch up. There's no way he'll get any sleep. Crying echoed throughout the house. And you thought it would be quiet here. This isn't Yuri and Hamura. These are 2 Hagoromo, and they're no less powerful than him. Yugao, come on, take out your mammary glands, the children are hungry. Naruto fidgeted and wrapped himself in the blanket. In response, a pillow flew at him. The diapers are on the dresser. So you will change. Yugao shouted and hugged the children to her chest. It's not fitting for a god to change diapers. Naruto muttered. I have 2 of your protégés in my hands right now. They ate. By the way, go change them. Naruto sighed, turned around and took the children. Pat them on the back. Ew, well, it's not a suit. It's karma, a snort was heard a minute later. Having carefully laid the children down, Naruto began to change the diaper, swearing quietly. The chemical weapon was disposed of, he took out the powder. 2 streams doused the blonde. Okay Ashura, but where are you going, Yuri? The kids just smiled and cooed. With difficulty, the diapers were changed. A minute later the children were already snoring. The suit changed to pajamas, the children found themselves in rompers. Grabbing the children, Naruto lay down on the bed, the children played on their father's chest, buried their face in his neck and fell into a deep sleep. You'll be a good father, Yugao muttered sleepily and snuggled up to the blonde. Yeah, the blonde snapped his fingers and a clone appeared in front of him. Find out what's going on with Jashin and unwind. The clone nodded and disappeared, and God finally fell asleep. Somewhere. Jashin was examining the strange breach. When Naruto left him in charge, he was glad. But realizing the scale of the work, he cursed him. Then the bastard Orochimaru did not resurrect. Souls told him for a long time who he was and where he should go. True. Now Orochimaru is in hell and this warmed Jashin's essence. What do you have here? The clone appeared next to God. See for yourself, Jashin pointed to the gap. 4 clowns are building a castle. Yeah, but these 4 weirdos are patronized by 2 entities. High order ones, like us. And middle order ones, like Tsukuyomi. Okay, close this gap for 15 years. Then I will go to this world. As you say. Jashin was obedient and did not ask unnecessary questions. If necessary, he will do it. Congratulations. Thank you. The clone extended his hand and God shook it. We'll wash it down sometime. The clone winked and disappeared. Jashin smiled and sealed the portal. Commentary on Welcome to Hell. I decided to throw Garrick in the next book. Now there will be almost no POV, since new characters are introduced, and it is difficult. There will be one more chapter and I think we will finish this part. There will be a second part, new gods, but this is not certain, grown-up children and much more. I will look at your activity winking face. A new beginning. The sun was rising over the village. But people were already awake, hammers were pounding here and there, colorful banners and balloons were appearing, a stage was being built in the central square. Naruto's friends and acquaintances were preparing gifts. Well, our story begins in the Anbu barracks. What are we going to give Naruto Dono and Yugao? Kakashi asked the entire Anbu staff. What does a young family need? Naruto Dono will create what is needed himself. Toys, there are never too many toys. Quiet. Hitaki's tired voice quickly calmed the crowd. Tenzo will take care of the fountain. Yuhiko, Rakani, Takiya, you will buy diapers and undershirts. Kakashi thought. Just take off your uniform, otherwise we will have no life. Laughter was heard throughout the hall. The rest chipped in 500 ryo. No one objected and gave the money to Hitaki. Here you go. He gave the money to the girls, run away. The hall emptied, and Kakashi took out a book and, sitting under the ceiling, began to read. Hokage House. What are we going to give them? I'll give you a drawing. Naruto showed the scribble, but Yugao and Naruto were clearly visible in it. Good girl, go play with Mito. Kushina pushed her son out and closed the door. My dear, what can you give to God? The Hokage leaned his elbows on the tabletop. He can create and buy everything, he knows the techniques without us. Then we need a gift for the children. Kushina began to think. Toys. Lots of toys. Minato, bring your stash. Habanero's eyes lit up with anticipation. But you have your own money. Mine is mine. Bring it, I said. Kushina shouted, putting the frying pan back in place. Yes, dear. Minato got up from the floor and trudged into the room. Naruto's house. Yugao woke up from someone poking her in the side. Yuri tried to turn over, but kept bumping into her mother's side. Yugao got up and picked up the baby. She, in turn, felt the warmth and pressed herself closer to her mother. Where is your daddy? Asked the kunoichi, rocking the baby. In the bath, Ashura took a dump. A voice was heard from the next door. Yugao chuckled at this. Yuri, not paying attention to this, reached for her mother's chest. Does Ashura not want to eat? She asked, pulling at her t-shirt. He wants. He wrinkled my pajamas all over in the chest area. Naruto answered, getting out of the bath. Ashura really was trying to feel something. Here, Uzumaki gave Ashura to his mother and went downstairs. Where are you going? Let's make breakfast. Naruto created 2 child-sized chairs at the table. Yugao sat between the children and waited, wiping the drool off the little ones as she went. Toast, jam, pancakes and your favorite omelet. Thank you. Yugao kissed Naruto on the cheek. What's up with Orochimaru? It's okay, he'll sit in hell for a while. Uzumaki took a sip of coffee. I'll return him later. For what? We need such a cow ourselves. No matter how ugly he is a strong shinobi, a genius. Konoha needs people like him. Besides, we won't be in this world for long. How many? About 15 years, I need to train Yuri and Ashura. Then gather the tailed beasts and seal this world. Naruto finished his coffee and started to collect the dishes. Why seal it? I want to save this world. There are too many powerful creatures beyond it. Naruto washed the dishes and took the children in his arms. Get ready, it's time for a walk. The girl nodded and went up. Naruto and the children went to the living room. 20 minutes later they left the house. The children in strollers, Naruto in his favorite white suit, Yugao in a loose lilac sarafan. The children's eyes glowed purple, the father's golden. Both were powerful. People smiled and congratulated the young parents and waved to the children, not even suspecting that these two children could destroy the entire world. Naruto Dono, Yugao, Kakashi appeared next to him and bowed. Hello, carbon copy. Naruto smiled. Morning Kakashi. The girl also smiled, holding Naruto's hand. By the way, Kakashi, close your eyes. The ash-haired man automatically closed his eyes. Putting his hand on the carbon copy's eyes, Naruto released divine energy. Open up. What have you done? What do you feel? Yugao stood in shock. The world has become clearer, too. Kakashi listened to his sensations. My chakra volume has tripled. Eternal Mangekyu Obito, plus you will spend less chakra to use it, well, and the reserve is a nice bonus. Thanks again Kakashi, and don't worry about the friction with the Uchiha, they owe me for life. Naruto took Yugao's hand and went on. She, having recovered from the shock, waved to Hatake. And the only owner of the Eternal Mangekyu remained standing in a stupor. And why? Azuki asked with a smile and pressed herself against the guy's shoulder. You deserve it. Yes, I agree, and there goes Kushina-san. Yugao unstuck herself from the guy's shoulder and waved. Kushina also waved and came over. Morning, lovebirds. The scarlet-haired girl kissed each of them on the cheek and sat down in front of the stroller. Naruto and Mito also looked at their nephews from behind their mother's back. Hello. The elder Naruto nodded. And hello to you, little one. Big brother, this is. Yeah, your nephew and niece. Yuri. Naruto pointed at the girl. Ashura pointed at the boy. Now have fun, see you at the party. The blonde disappeared. Business again, Yugao sighed. It's about Obito, Kushina said, frowning slightly. Okay, let's not talk about sad things. Look, the kids have already found a common language. Mito and Naruto Jr. held the plump hands of their nephews. Investigation Department. Level 6. Level 6 of the Interrogation Department. The most dangerous criminals are kept here. Only 3 have access. The head of the Interrogation Department, the Hokage, and the head of Anbu. No one else is allowed in. The massive door filled with FUNN opened as soon as Naruto stepped over the threshold, the door slammed shut, and the FUNN lit up with a crimson fire. Naruto Dono, Ibiki, the head of the Investigation Department, bowed. What's wrong with him? Prisoner 669, Uchiha Obito. As soon as Ibiki said this, a cage appeared from the ground. Obito was in a straitjacket, with a FUNN seal over his eyes. He's silent, we still haven't broken the seal. Look. Yes, open the cage. Morino folded the seals and the door opened. As soon as Naruto entered, the signer folded the seals in the opposite order and the door slammed shut. Obito, raise your head. The prisoner raised his head. Fuinjutsu. Spiritual purification. Naruto pointed his hand at his heart. From a huge burst of chakra, all the FUNN covering the room lit up. And Ibiki fell unconscious. Ibiki, rise. The blonde snapped his fingers and the shinobi immediately came to his senses. Sorry. Ibiki shook his head, made hand seals and the door opened. Naruto walked out, dragging Obito along with him. Nothing. He's clean. I erased all the memories after his supposed death. Now you can instill in him whatever you want. I'll report to the Hokage right now. Taking Uchiha from Uzumaki's hands, Ibiki headed for the exit. And Naruto simply disappeared. Haha, even Uzumaki's seals are no match for him. Ibiki slammed the door. Evening. Konoha's Central Square. Naruto and his family occupied the most honorable places on the stage. To their left sat the heads of the clans, to their right Kushina with her children. Behind them stood a line of Anbu. At the very edge stood a podium, next to which stood Minato. The main festivities would begin after the speech. Dear residents, Shinobi. Silence fell on the square. Today we honor the hero of our village. Uzumaki Naruto. Minato raised his hand, not allowing the crowd to shout. And also his children. Minato raised his hand again. Naruto, please. Then pointed this hand at Uzumaki. The crowd began to shout, hoot, and clap. The clan heads also clapped, but much more meaningfully. Thank you. Naruto raised his hand and the crowd calmed down. I am very glad that you all love me, and I promise that I will make this world a better place. The crowd clapped even harder. And lastly, the blonde turned to Yugao, the crowd fell silent again. The girl stood up, handed the children to Kushina and headed towards Uzumaki. As soon as she approached, the blonde knelt down and took out an open box. Yugao Azuki, will you marry me? Yes. Naruto stood up and put the ring on his beloved's finger. By the power given to me by Kami, I pronounce as husband and wife. Naruto kissed the girl. There was a lot of clapping. the clan head stood up and began to congratulate the newlyweds. Then Minato and the Steel Ones. Naruto-sama is the best. Shouts were heard from all sides. Have fun, people, today it's all on me. Naruto shouted. Then came gifts, congratulations from ordinary people and ordinary shinobi. The village celebrated until the morning. A new chapter began for the entire shinobi world. A new beginning. 10 years later. Naruto, Mito, breakfast. Kushina shouted as she placed the pancakes on plates. It smells so delicious. Mito was the first to jump out and immediately sat down at the table. And you doubted it. Naruto came down lazily and waddled, sitting down next to her. Come on, eat, or you'll be late. Kushina sat down opposite with a cup of coffee. Mom, do you know the composition of the senseis? Mito asked with her mouth full. She was a year younger than Naruto, but her big brother interceded for her and took the academy together with Naruto. Stop talking with your mouth full. Uzumaki's hair grew longer and slapped the girl. She didn't even feel it and continued to gobble up her mother's cooking. I only know one thing. Let's bet, big brother. Having chewed, Mito extended her hand to her brother. You'll lose. Naruto snorted and drank the juice, but extended his hand. We're playing for a wish. Deal. Tabane. Kushina's hair cut the hands of the disputants. Karamai's Mito noticed her mother's slight nod. Now run. Iruka won't wait long. Kushina stood up and began to clear away the dishes. Yes. Nodding, the children headed towards the door. Having put on their shoes and grabbed their scrolls and snacks, they headed towards the academy. The academy was packed, with people, clans, and ordinary shinobi free from missions crowded everywhere. Our couple bypassed the crowd and slipped through one of the windows and headed to the third floor. Entering the classroom, Iruka greeted them and pointed to the empty seats. One seat was next to Hinata, which Naruto immediately took. The second was next to Sasuke, whom Mito couldn't stand. Sakura was the last to enter and sat down next to Shikamaru. Silence, I'm going to announce the teams now. Iruka cleared his throat and began reading. Team number 1. Inaru Uchiha, Taito Genshi, Sanji Daichi. Mentor Anko Mitarashi. Something flew through the window. You so-called blockheads, follow me. She shouted. How uncultured. Uchiha Inara snorted. Mitarashi immediately appeared behind him and, grabbing him by the ear, led the class out. Let's continue, Iruka said, wondering who would pay the bill for the window. Team number 7. Sakura Haruno, Uchiha Sasuke, Mito Namikaze. Mentor Obito Uchiha. The named one entered the classroom. He was dressed in a standard Jonin suit, the only thing that distinguished him was the completely covered right side of his face. I'll wait for you on the roof. Obito nodded and disappeared into the shunshin. Mito jumped out the window, grabbing Sakura. The Uchiha irritably trudged towards the exit. Team number 8. Naruto Namikaze, Hinata Hyuga, Sai Yamanaka. Sensei Naruto Uzumaki. Iruka said and smiled at the blonde who was searching for his jaw on the floor. What are we sitting here for? Naruto found himself behind the students. Let's move our buns to the roof. In repeating the trick, Obito disappeared, only without any effects. Well, let's go. Having found the jaw, Naoru Jr. grabbed Hinata, who immediately hugged him, and jumped out the window. Sai jumped after him. Roof of the academy. Naruto was talking to Obito about something. A few minutes later, their students showed up. After shaking hands, the senseis and their students went their separate ways. Before that, Mito stuck her tongue out at Naruto Jr. So, let's get acquainted. Naruto Sr. sat on the railing, putting his hands in the pockets of his pressed trousers. My name is Naruto Uzumaki, the older brother of this idiot. He pointed to Naruto Jr. Jonin SSSSS plus class, according to the documents. Uzumaki laughed. I like coffee and donuts, I don't like traitors. Now you. Sai Yamanaka. Genin, I like to draw and water flowers. I don't like the night. Okay. Naruto nodded. Hinata Hyuga. Genin, I like training, I don't like when people yell at me, I hit them right away. The girl lowered her head in embarrassment. Okay, next. Come on big brother, you know me very well. And they do too. Ow. Naruto rubbed his bruised head. Firstly, it's not respect for your comrades, and secondly, I'm your sensei. Naru Jr. rubbed his head again. For prevention, now introduce yourself. Naruto Namikaze. Genin, I love Hinata, I don't like Sasuke. Sai wrote down in his notebook, while Hinata buried her face in the shoulder of the younger Naruto. Excellent team, now for training. Uzumaki thought. Can everyone walk on surfaces? The children nodded. Excellent, now we always move to the training ground only on walls and roofs. Understood. So we will raise your control, isn't it control? The most important thing for a shinobi, Sai replied. Why? Because even those who have little chakra can defeat those who have a lot of it, only through control. And this is already hinata. True. And now, training ground number 12. I'll expect you in half an hour. Uzumaki disappeared silently. In short, the training ground is 10 minutes away at a leisurely pace. So, let's have a snack? Namikaze asked. The others nodded affirmatively. Naruto unsealed a small tablecloth, some onigiri, and 2 bowls of ramen. Sai took out 6 skewers with dango, Hinata took out fruits in a flask of water. Itadakimasu. Naruto started eating, everyone took what they wanted, no one was against it. Not a bad team, don't you think? Naruto asked Obito. Both were standing on one of the lightning rods, under the blonde's invisibility. Yeah, Uchiha sighed and looked at his students. Sakura sat with a bored look, Mito enclosed Sasuke in a barrier, leaving him without a scroll with food. But mine are so-so. Don't be sad. Naruto patted Obito on the shoulder. Remember yourself and Kakashi. That's why I was bothering Minato for you, he's still worried. I understand. Yes, you're right, I have to instill team spirit in them. Obito disappeared and appeared in front of his students. Naruto looked at his students. They decided to take a nap, leaving the clone. They'll be sleepy, oh well. He waved his hand and decided to listen to Obito. Sakura fails. Why didn't you stand up for Sasuke? Why, it's your own fault. PFF'd. Uchiha squeezed out of himself. In short, tomorrow is training ground number 7. At 9 in the morning and preferably without breakfast. Until tomorrow, Obito Ushunshinil, and Naruto headed to the training ground. Polygon number 12. Naruto sat with his back to the entrance and read. Feeling the students, he said without turning around. Attack. Your target is a book, you have an hour. He raised his hand. I authorize you to use all your techniques. Ooh, let's beat up my brother. The last one to touch him takes everyone to Ichiraku. The partners nodded in unison. So, I'll be a tank, Hina, your task is to distract and tie him up with taijutsu, my clones will help. Sai, your task is to take the book. Hi. Let's go, Dadbeo. Naru Jr. created 10 clones and they, together with Hinata, ran at Naru Sr. He stood up, closed the book, shrank it and put it in his pocket. Putting his hand in his free pocket, he began to dodge the clone's blows, blocking Hinata's taijutsu with one hand. 8 trigrams 16 palms. Hinata tried to hit Sensei, but he covered himself from all attacks with Naruto's clones. Not bad. 16 palms in 13. Naru Sr. nodded. Grabbing the girl's hand, he sent her to sleep. Sai attacked him from behind. Ninja art. High-class animal imitation drawing. About 10 animals rushed at the elder Naruto. After dispelling several of them, the sensei of team number 8 felt the barrier. With difficulty turning his head, he noticed a tense Naruto. He was holding the seal, but it was obvious that it was very difficult for him. Sai, come on, the blonde shouted. Sai spread into ink, and the real one jumped out from below and snatched the book. Stop. Sensei waved his hand. Hinata woke up, and Uzumaki's barrier disappeared. Now everyone in a circle. As soon as everyone stood up, Sensei began. You showed excellent results, but the main thing is that you know how to work in a team. Which made me happy. And now you are free, I'll wait for you tomorrow near the Hokage's residence at 9 in the morning. Don't forget about the roofs and walls. Whoever comes on foot will have to plow for everyone. Naru Sr. disappeared. Well, no one touched Sensei in the end. Hinata sighed. Why did I touch it? Sai smiled. So you pay, Dadbeo. The blonde smiled. I'll pay too, Hinata said. Where would you go without me? Naruto waved his hand, and hugging his friends, he led them to Ichiraku. A laugh was heard in the shadow of a tree, and then silence. Naruto, having entered the house, immediately took off his clothes, changing them into home clothes. 2 heads stuck out from the living room. Another one from the kitchen. Hi, I'm home, Naruto smiled as he put on his slippers. Dad, Yuri jumped into her father's arms. And Ashura and I were offered to take the exams externally. This only happened during the war. Hello, dear. Naruto put the girl down and hugged Yugao. Be proud, but don't get cocky. Father smiled. And now to training. Having created a clone, he sent it with the children. He himself went with Yugao to the kitchen. So, how do you like your team? Yugao put a cup of coffee on the table and sat on the blonde's lap, hugging him around the neck. Excellent, they know how to work in a team. They are capable of chunin, in a couple of years they will become jonin. And with the letter S, Naru smiled and took a sip of coffee. Excellent team. That makes me happy. The girl smiled and laid her head on Uzumaki's shoulder. Now let's go watch the training. Taking the girl in his arms, he headed towards his personal training ground, hidden by the most powerful barrier. Commentary on 10 years later. In short, I've thought about a lot. So far, there are no crossovers planned with this FIC. They don't work out. I think another 10 to 15 chapters and the fanfic will be finished. After that, I'll work on, Goodbye Madara, Hello Naruto. Or maybe I'll take another request, there are a couple of tasty ones there. In the meantime, read and wait for the continuation, now it will be more often. Much more often. Dear S-Rank Mission. Part 1. To the minute, well done. Naruto Sr. looked at his students. So, here are the plans for today. He took out a notebook and opened it. 3D rank missions, then control training. Then I'll take you to eat, and then go home. You'll be free at about 3 o'clock. 3 missions. The younger one was indignant. Can't you handle it? The elder raised an eyebrow. I can handle it, Namikaze shouted. Well, that's it. Uzumaki took out 3 scrolls. Weeding the garden, cleaning the Inuzuka enclosures and destroying weeds on the training ground. Inuzuka enclosures. Hinata grimaced. Hinata, missions are different. You might have to lie down in a stinking ditch to disguise yourself. And the shinobi profession itself is dirty. Uzumaki said with a wise look. So get used to it Hina, and now to the roof in the Inuzuka quarter. Naruto jumped onto the roof, the others followed his example and set off. Inuzuka quarter. On the approach to the quarter, the team was stopped by 2 chunin. Seeing who had come, they stepped aside. The team went deeper into the quarter. Welcome. Naruto stopped. The enclosures are there, it's 1 o'clock. Uzumaki pointed towards the western wall. And I'll visit soon. And he disappeared. Clones? Asked the younger Naru. The other genin nodded, it was clear that they recognized Namikaze as the unofficial leader. Having summoned several dozen clones, Naruto sent them to the enclosures. Hinata sent 1, Sai also sent 1. Now let's go to Henna. The younger Naru waved his hand towards the building where the sign above the entrance read, Inuzuka Veterinary Clinic. There were few people today, and most of the veterinarians were free, as was the head of the clinic, Henna Inuzuka, and our genins headed towards her. Knocking on the door, Naru Jr. opened it slightly. Oh, hi Naruto-kun. She waved her hand, signing some report. Henna, hi, I'm with my friends, we're here on a mission. Naruto walked into the office, taking the others with him. Hinata and Sai, he pointed at his friends one by one. Should we sit with you? Of course. The girl smiled. I understand they sent clones. The girl asked, taking out cups and a teapot. Yeah, the blonde nodded, scratching the back of his head. Big brother took 3 whole missions, we have to do everything. I see. The girl poured tea and pushed the mugs closer. Help yourself, and how do you like Naruto Dono as a mentor? The girl took a sip from the mug. It's too early to judge, but he knows a lot. Naruto twirled his mug. I'll tell you a couple of rumors about him. Henna put down her cup and leaned back in her chair. First, he knows everything about our world, all known techniques, even Haijutsu. Second, he has perfect control. They say he can stand on 1 finger, on a needle that is placed on a pike. Henna fell silent. Lies. Perfect control, it's even hypothetically impossible. Even my father, who knows senjutsu, can only stand at his peak, and not for long. Maybe. Naru Sr. appeared behind them. Follow me. Team Eiza Sensei walked out the door. 15 minutes later, people gathered at one of the training grounds. Everyone was interested in what the most famous shinobi in the world would show. Having created a pike and several platforms, Uzumaki took out a needle. Having secured it with chakra, he took off his shoes and stood on it with the toe of 1 foot. With a wave of his hand, the pike grew as did the platforms. Naruto folded his arms across his chest. Kami-sama, one of the Inuzuka chunin shouted and fainted. Perfect control. A wave of his hand lifted the chunin back up. Now we can go on the next mission. Uzumaki jumped down, clicking away the platforms and the pike. What's next? He took out a notepad and scribbled something in it. Weeding the gardens and weeds, clones can do that. The students created clones. Excellent. Now to the training ground. The elder jumped onto the roof and ran towards the training ground. The team followed him. Polygon number 12. At the training ground, Sensei team number 8 felt unwell. Jumping to the ground from a tree, he fell on his knee. Sensei. Hinata landed next to him. Are you okay? I don't know, something is holding my body back. Naruto was already sitting up. Great purification. Having folded the seal, Uzumaki hit himself in the chest. Nothing. This is strange. Fuinjutsu. Great spiritual purification. Naruto said, putting his hand on his chest. Hinata and the others nearby were crushed by energy. Even this didn't help. Naruto thought for a moment. How are you? Everything is fine, the genins answered in chorus. Looks like Uzumaki's technique again. Naruto spat. Now that's not good. Uzumaki twitched. What else happened? Naruto asked worriedly. Most of the village is out cold. I'll be out cold soon too, but before that, the blonde snapped his fingers. Everyone who's out cold is in the shelter. Yugao with the kids and Kushina with Mito are okay, Minato is not in the village, he's in the capital. And lastly, Naruto is. Uzumaki fell unconscious without finishing, the training ground was immediately covered by a barrier. Damn, if they took my brother out of the game, then the enemies are not simple. Naruto stood up. As soon as we leave the training ground, the barrier will not let anyone through, absolutely no matter what powers they have. Okay, let's go, we need to get to my brother's house, follow me. Naruto ran to the exit, the others ran after him. The team ran along the rooftops and looked around the village. It seemed to have died out overnight. The baked goods on the shelves were still hot, many shops and stalls were open. They reached the house in 10 minutes, a crimson barrier glowed around it. Two Hyuga stood on the inside and drilled the space with their Byakugan. Naruto stopped in front of them. Team number 8, Temporary Commander Naruto Namikaze. Come in. Hyuga nodded. The team went inside. Hinata-sama. One of the guards bowed to the girl. The only ones left from the clan are you, your sister, and the two of us, the rest have disappeared. Everyone's in the shelter, Hinata replied. Who came there? Yugao came out of the house in an Anbu uniform. Where is he? Shut up, little sister Yugao. Big brother is out of it too. I see. The girl sighed. Come into the house, Keiichi. She turned to one of the guards. In an hour, you will be replaced by Uchiha. The guard nodded. There were several dozen people in the house. They were discussing something, and when they saw the new arrivals they fell silent. So, I'm the temporary commander of Team 8. Naruto was dead serious. Everyone who's passed out in the shelter, Big Brother, isn't playing either. Many sighed upon learning that their friends and relatives were safe. Bad, but not critical. An adult copy of Shikamaru stepped forward. I am Deputy Hokage-sama, Shikaku Nara. I have already outlined an action plan. Now you and Teams 1, 7, and 10 run through the village, close all the shops, stores, then patrol the surrounding area. If you see an enemy, inform me and retreat. Shikaku gave everyone radios. Captains Shikamaru and Naruto. Get food pills in the kitchen. Yes, the genins nodded. Team number 7 is with me. Naruto headed for the exit. But then Kushina came out. I'm fine, the scarlet-haired girl exhaled and hugged her son. Where are you going? Mom, we're going on patrol now. Sai, go get some pills for everyone. Yamanaka nodded and headed to the kitchen. Check the equipment, I'll be back in 5 minutes. He and his mother headed up, Mito also headed with them. Yugao was in the bedroom with the children. Uzumaki was looking out the window stroking her katana, the children were doing calligraphy. The Namikaze couple walked in and sat on the bed. Brother Naru, they say dad is out of it too. Yuri, tearing herself away from the scroll, sat down next to Namikaze with her brother. Don't worry, my brother is strong, even unconscious he thinks how to fix the situation. Naruto stroked Yuri's head, she hugged him in return. I agree, it's not that easy to kill him. Ashura looked at his mother, she nodded slightly. Yuri, let's go, I'll pour you some juice, otherwise we won't get many people. Smiling at his sister, he offered his back, she deftly jumped on it. Good luck on the mission, brother. Yuri waved her hand, Ashura nodded and left the room, closing the door. Tell me, Yugao sat down on the bed. In general, even the most powerful purification techniques didn't work on him. Naruto sighed, but he said that he would think about what to do. It's clearly in the inner world. Every Jinchuriki has one. Namikaze stroked her stomach. Even though I'm not a Jinchuriki anymore, the world is still there. I like to hang out there when I get tired of you. She smiled at the children. We must wait and be prepared. The girl fell silent, and then said, It's time for you to go. The brother and sister nodded and headed for the exit. Good luck and cover each other. Be careful, Yugao said. The door slammed shut. After going down, Naruto and Mito received 3 pills each from Sai. Is everyone ready? Have you checked everything? Receiving nods, Namikaze sighed. Get out. Remember, if you see an enemy, report and wait for reinforcements, Shikaku gave parting words. Good luck. The genins walked out into the street in a column. Good luck to all of us. Naruto put his fist up, everyone punched it and, dividing into teams, ran away. DRS rank mission. Part 2. Tonari looked at the empty village with disdain. If it were up to him, he wouldn't even come down here, but the plan was above him. The artifact's effect would soon end and that God would wake up. By that time Otsutsuki should be on the moon, the elders were already waiting. Hanabi Hyuga, I'm coming for you. Tonari raised his eyelids, his eye sockets were empty. The unusual silence was too much for the genin to bear. They had already completed their mission and were now patrolling the surrounding area. Naruto. Hinata screamed, deactivating her Byakugan. There are too many targets, but they have no chakra. Puppets. Could it be Suna? The blonde thought. Everyone be ready. Uzumaki turned on the radio. Shikaku-san, it looks like this is Suna's doing, hundreds of puppets are moving in our direction. Accepted. Lie low and wait for reinforcements. Estimated time of arrival is 2 minutes. Received. Naruto turned off the headset. Everyone, stay in cover. The group scattered. As soon as the last genin ducked into cover, the puppets ran at speed down the center of the street, heading for the shelter. But then a moment later Anbu appeared, not many, a dozen. But among them was Kakashi, his hair was recognizable. You will not get any further, Kakashi said calmly. Destroy. The Anbu rushed into battle. The Anbu smashed the puppets to pieces using ligaments and combined taijutsu techniques. But there were many puppets, and dozens of new ones appeared to replace those destroyed. Pathetic bugs. I don't have much time. The Anbu squad was imprinted on the wall of the house. I would kill, but there is no time. Tonari looked at the squad with contempt. I doubt it. Tonari turned around. 2 eternal Mangekyu were looking at him. After that, Kakashi sent Otsutsuki flying with 1 blow. Get out. Go to base. This is my opponent. Really? Namecase climbed out. Scat. And you too. He nodded to the Anbu who had come to their senses, and a minute later the street was empty. Well, not all humans are pathetic. Show me your strength. Tonari shouted and rushed at Kakashi, blocking the ANBU's powerful blows and casting genjutsu. Genjutsu doesn't work on me. Otsutsuki kicked, sending Kakashi flying. But I've been waiting to see your Mangekyu. Show me the power of those eyes. Kamui. The guy's head started to twist, but he swallowed the technique. Not bad, not bad. What else can you show? First gate. Gate of beginning. Kakashi's speed increased significantly, and with the Sharingan and Chidori, he became a dangerous opponent. It's dangerous. Tonari was barely dodging Hataki, who didn't forget to use Kamui. You're running out of steam, man. Not paying attention to the words, Kakashi accelerated to the maximum, piercing the heart of the Otsutsuki, and finally biting off part of the guy's arm. Arg. He sent the Anbu flying with a kick of his chakra-infused leg. Damn it, 5 minutes left. Stupid human. Ignoring the pain and wounds, he headed towards the shelter. We're all screwed. We're screwed. Ashiki ran around like he was stung. All our plans went to hell. Without these eyes we can't do anything to him. Nothing. Calm down. A loud slap brought Ashiki to his senses. We'll overwhelm him with numbers. And we have a couple of fruits, and also the 10-tailed one. We'll cope. It's just that those eyes were another trump card, but alas. Let's abandon this world, okay. Why do we need it? There are still a lot of worlds. He can travel across worlds, Blockhead. As long as he's alive, we'll have no peace. Do we not have such an artifact yet? No, it was unique. They wanted to use it in an attack on some pantheon, but that was a long time ago. It's a pity he couldn't handle it. Everyone looked at the ground. Tonari was lying 50 meters away from the entrance to the shelter. A crimson stain was spreading under him, and then a person, or a creature, appeared next to him, examined the body and raised his eyes to the sky, staring intently at Otsutsuki. And then he disappeared again. I wet myself. Honestly, me too. Ashiki, he's completely fainted. And indeed, Otsutsuki was lying on the floor, drooling. Naruto found himself near the shelter right after waking up. Who did this to you? He sat down next to Tonari. Old acquaintances. He looked intently at the sky. And then he went to the shelter, taking the body of Otsutsuki. Silence. Uzumaki's powerful voice echoed throughout the shelter, calming the people who had come to their senses. We were all caught in the action of an unknown artifact. Even you. A hesitant voice came from the crowd. Yes, and I don't know what's going on in the village now. The only thing I managed to do was send you to the shelter and seal it. And now I'll find out everything and you'll be able to come out in an hour. Naruto disappeared again. Conference hall of the Hokage residence. All the high-ranking shinobi, clan heads, and Naruto were present in the hall. In general, I don't know what it was, but I know who is to blame for it. Naruto took the floor. In his hands he held a glass of whiskey, Otsutsuki, a clan of powerful aliens. In fact, ordinary people, 2 orders of magnitude stronger than our cage, well, and live longer than humans. What should we do? Minato asked. Council of 5 cage. I need an army. Why? 1 click and that's it. Minato intervened. Now this is where it gets more interesting. Uzumaki thought for a moment and took a sip and continued. They have resistance to some of my powers. And with 100 people of cage level it will be difficult for me, not to mention the pile of artifacts and possibly the 10 tails. The 10 tails. But Rakudo sealed it 1,000 years ago. Alas, but there is not only our world, and in each there was, and maybe still is, a 10-tailed one. In general, I will deal with the Otsutsuki myself. I need an army to contain their army, a side branch. So you want to unite all the villages? Asked one of the Junins. Yes. Naruto finished his whiskey. Now I want to propose handing over Chunin to several genin. Yes, Naruto Namekaze, Shikamaru Nara and Sai Yamanaka. Isn't it a bit early? They will be useful to me on the front lines. Only shinobi of Chunin rank and above will go to war. Okay, who is for awarding the rank of Chunin to the named shinobi? Every single one of them raised their hands. They all trusted Uzumaki and were confident in him. Unanimously. And now everyone, rest. See you later. Naruto waved his hand and disappeared. Tired? Yugao asked while preparing dinner. Not much, there will be a cage council soon. Naruto rubbed the bridge of his nose. We are facing a war. Do you think they will decide? The dinner was laid out on plates. Yes, I'm a thorn in their side. And they'll use everything they have against me. A plate was placed in front of Naruto. Okay, let's eat. Tomorrow will be tomorrow. Bon appetit. Enjoy.